Chapter 185. Bai fell and scratched her palm. She smoothly entered the Zhuang house to apply medicine. When chatting with Zhuang Yulong, she let him out of her situation, which aroused Zhuang Yulong's sympathy. He left her in the Zhuang house and lived with Zhuang Lushi. Bai was also very grateful and offered to help take care of Zhuang Lushi, cook and wash. Bai's appearance just solved Zhuang Yulong's dilemma, and he was greatly relieved. Although Zhuang Lushi didn't want to have strangers in the house, she really couldn't take care of her son now. There was no harm in having a girl who could clean up the house and take care of her. The most important thing was that before she could object, she saw Bai buy a chicken to stew. Zhuang Lushi thought that this girl was an orphan who came to seek refuge with relatives. She had money on her, but not only did she not spend it, but she also gave it to them. Where could she find such a good thing? If she wanted to stay, she would stay. Bai lived in the Zhuang house like this. She was determined to repay the kindness, so naturally, she took care of all the housework. She didn't even let Zhuang Yulong touch the wood. She did all the dirty work. These were easy for her, a great monster, but for the mother and son of the Zhuang family, it was a great help. The quality of life of the mother and son rose sharply, and they suddenly changed from a poor family to a rich family. Comfort was the easiest to get used to. Zhuang Yulong was embarrassed to refuse twice at the beginning, but he quickly got used to Bai's kindness. However, Zhuang Yulong didn't forget the fox. Every time he saw the fox's nest in the yard, he would show a melancholy expression and have some good memories about the fox with Bai. Bai especially liked to hear this. Hearing this from Zhuang Yulong, she felt that her benefactor cared about her very much and missed her very much. When Zhuang Yulong mentioned the white fox again, Bai finally couldn't help it. She went out to buy something and turned into a fox and ran back to the Zhuang house. Shue. Zhuang Yulong was very surprised to see Bai. There was an obvious happy smile on his face. He quickly walked to Bai and picked her up. Shue, where did you go? I was worried for a long time. Are you lost? Can't find your home? What about Hong? Is it lost? Zhuang Yulong had a lot of questions, but of course, the fox couldn't answer him. He could only tacitly agree with his guess. He wanted to take Bai into his room. Bai quickly jumped to the ground, ran to the door, and called back to him twice. Zhuang Yulong asked curiously, "What's wrong, Shue? Where are you going?" Bai ran out 2 more steps and looked back at him. Zhuang Yulong seemed to understand and followed her. Bai took him and ran out of the city until they reached a cave in the suburbs. Before Zhuang Yulong entered, she used a camouflage technique to turn a stone into a fire fox. Zhuang Yulong saw Huahu the moment he entered the cave. He said happily, "Hong, so you didn't lose it. It's great that you're fine. Come home with me. There's a kind-hearted girl in the family. You'll definitely like her, and she'll definitely like you. Let's go back." Bai didn't move. She controlled Firefox to raise its head and lay back down to sleep. Then Bai ran around the cave, showing that she liked it very much. Zhuang Yulong was suddenly enlightened. You don't like to stay at home but prefer to stay in the cave? That's right. You live in the wild. How can you be trapped in that small courtyard? Bai turned a pile of stones in the dark corner into chicken bones. Zhuang Yulong saw it when he wandered around the cave. He sighed and said, "This is also good. You can hunt by yourself and eat pheasants. If you stay at home, Mother will definitely not allow you to eat it." He sat down and picked up Bai. He said reluctantly, "Your injuries are all healed. Are you going to leave? My family is poor and can't raise you well. My mother also." Alas! Zhuang Yulong thought of the rat trap and sighed deeply. He didn't want them to go back. He played with Bai in the cave for a long time, and didn't go back until it was almost dark. Bai didn't like to see him troubled and kept teasing him. In the end, Zhuang Yulong went back with a smile. Bai went back first. As soon as he got home, he happily shared with Bai. "Miss Bai, I found my fox. They're fine and didn't run around. It turns out that they're just not used to here and ran to the suburbs." Bai smiled and said, "Is that so? Congratulations. Then if you want to see them, you can go outside the city to see them." "Yes. They're really cute. I'll take you to see them next time." Ah. Bai was stunned for a moment, and then replied, Okay, I've heard so many things about them from you. I've wanted to see them for a long time. It was very easy to make two foxes out of the illusion, so Bai Yi quickly calmed down. The two of them smiled and prepared dinner in the yard. Zhuang Lushi leaned against the window in the room and eavesdropped quietly. Bai Yi found out that she was eavesdropping, but she didn't understand why. Bai Yi didn't care what she was doing and ignored her. The second time, Zhuang Yulong took Bai Yi to the suburbs. He told Zhuang Lushi that they were going out of the city to catch fish. Zhuang Lushi didn't respond. She told them not to fall into the water, but her heart was very uncomfortable. This was the first time she found out that her son actually lied to her. Originally, she was a little guilty about selling the fox that her son found with great difficulty. Now she didn't feel guilty at all. She even felt that she should sell the two foxes. If it weren't for those two animals, how could her obedient son become like this? How could she be hurt by a mousetrap? Anyway, those two foxes were originally found by her son. Selling them for 120 taels was a repayment for the two foxes. Zhuang Lushi took a rope and a cage, and also a pot of water with knockout drug. She quietly followed them out of the city. Bai Yi found out that Zhuang Lushi was following them early. She also smelled the unpleasant smell of medicine. She knew that this damn woman was going to harm them again. Her anger suddenly came out. Zhuang Yulong stepped into the cave first and picked up the white fox. Miss Bai, look, this is Shui. The one lying there and not moving is Hong. Bai Yi smiled and said, "It's really cute. It's very beautiful." Zhuang Lushi hesitated for a moment. She didn't enter the cave, but hid in the bushes nearby. Bai Yi glanced over there and deliberately played with Zhuang Yulong and the fox. When it was almost dark, she suggested to go out and catch fish. She forced Zhuang Lushi to squat in the bushes. Her whole body was almost numb, and she was bitten by mosquitoes. After Bai Yi and Zhuang Yulong left, Zhuang Lushi got up shakily and patted the soil on her butt. She cursed. "Shameless fox spirit, seducing my son to play around and lose his will. What catch fish, ba?" Bai Yi used the excuse of picking fruit to separate from Zhuang Yulong. As soon as she came back, she heard Zhuang Lushi scolding. Her face turned cold. She was a fox spirit, but why did this woman's tone sound like she was scolding her? She hid in the dark, wanting to see what Zhuang Lushi was going to do. After waiting for a while, she saw Zhuang Lushi take a piece of tree bark with a groove and pour water into the cave. She faked a smile and said, "Shuerhong, or are you thirsty? Come and drink some water. The mountain spring water is very sweet." Bai Yi snorted and waved her hand. The two stone foxes walked in front of Zhuang Lushi and drank the water. Then they fell unconscious on the ground. Zhuang Lushi was overjoyed and hurriedly put the two foxes into the cage. "Oh, why are you so heavy?" Zhuang Lushi was shocked by the weight of the foxes. She snorted coldly. "How many chickens did you eat to grow so fat? Now there is a big sister buying you. What kind of luck do you have? Let me tell you, you are all thanks to my son. If it weren't for that big sister wanting to repay my son, why would she buy you two beasts?" Zhuang Lushi talked about Miss Jiang buying the foxes. Only then did Bai Yi know why Zhuang Lushi had to catch them. Her face was very ugly. That woman pretended to be her, and she was generous enough to not care about it. That woman actually dared to make trouble for her. Then don't blame her for being impolite. Zhuang Lushi was her benefactor's mother and couldn't be touched. That woman was nothing. All of Bai Yi's dissatisfaction was transferred to Miss Jiang. She looked at the two fake foxes and her eyes lit up. The two fake foxes became more lively, but they were still unconscious and didn't show up for the time being. Bai Yi picked a handful of fruits and dared to go to the river to help Zhuang Yulong catch two fish. The two of them went home happily to cook. Zhuang Yulong didn't find Zhuang Lushi at home. He wondered, where did mother go? She hasn't recovered yet. Why did she go out alone? Bai Yi's back was facing him as she processed the fish scales. She pointed out, "I think Aunt Zhuang's body is very good. She gets up very quickly at night. She doesn't need anyone to help her. Her appetite is also very good. Maybe she has recovered." Zhuang Yulong thought of Zhuang Lushi, who was sick in bed, and asked him to find a doctor. In the end, she could get up and set traps. In the past few days, he didn't see any painful expression. She didn't buy any medicine. It was very likely that she had really recovered. However, with Bai Yi doing the housework, she had been pretending that she hadn't recovered. Zhuang Yulong's impression of Zhuang Lushi worsened. Unknowingly, he found that his mother was not as good as he thought. The feeling of difference in his heart made him very uncomfortable. He didn't know how to accept such a mother. After a while, Zhuang Lushi came back with banknotes in her chest. Her face was full of health. Not only was she not sick, she couldn't be any better. Zhuang Yulong was puzzled by her happiness. "Mother, where did you go? Is there any good news?" Zhuang Lushi smiled and said, "I helped a sister of a rich family. She was generous and rewarded me with a lot of money. In the future, we won't have to live so hard. You won't have to worry about traveling expenses when you go to the capital to take the exam." Zhuang Yulong was puzzled. "What did you help the noble person with? How much money did you get?" Zhuang Lushi waved her hand. "Don't worry about that. You just need to study hard." She saw Bai Yi cooking in the kitchen and said to Zhuang Yulong, "Don't play with her. She doesn't know how to take the exam. She only knows how to play. You are going to be a big official and bring glory to your ancestors. You can't lose your spirit by playing around." Zhuang Yulong instinctively felt disgusted. "Mother, you were like this when Shuer and Honger were here. Now that Miss Bai is here, you are like this. Am I so insensible that I make you worry so much? Don't worry, I will definitely be successful and won't let you down." Zhuang Yulong shook his sleeves and went back to his room. Zhuang Lushi also went back to her room angrily. Bai Yi coldly snorted. She was even more disgusted with Zhuang Lushi, who angered her benefactor. Bai Yi used her magic to cook. Taking advantage of the fact that the two men hadn't come out yet, she disappeared from her original spot. She used the earth-shrinking technique and arrived at the back residence of the magistrate. Of course, she could find the fake fox she created. Soon after she entered the residence, she found Miss Jiang's courtyard. Miss Jiang was looking at the fox in the cage with a maidservant. "Go get some cold water and splash it to wake them up." Miss Jiang's tone was cold and carried a hint of superiority. Bai Yi raised her eyebrows. She found a big hidden tree and sat on a branch. The maidservant poured a basin of water into the cage. The two foxes woke up and quickly scratched the cage with their claws. They also used their mouths to bite. They looked like they were going to break out of the cage. Miss Jiang covered her mouth and laughed. "They are really two wild foxes. They can't stop for a moment. I'm afraid that they have never been in a cage before. They must be scared out of their wits, right? Isn't that right? This white beast dared to offend sister. It really deserves to die. In my opinion, we should just skin it and sew a sleeve cage for sister. As for meat, fox meat doesn't taste good. We can just throw it all to feed the dogs. What do you think?" The maidservant agreed. Miss Jiang laughed. Seeing the foxes who made her look bad being slaughtered, she felt a headache coming on. She pretended to be generous and said, "Wouldn't it be a pity to feed them to the dogs? In any case, it is something that Scholar Zhuang likes. I don't know if Scholar Zhuang will come to see it. Let's keep it alive for now." "Oh right, I can't. Grandmother's birthday is next month. I'm still worried about what to give her. I might as well skin these two foxes and make something for grandmother. When the time comes, grandmother will like it and father will think highly of me. Am I right?" Yes, yes, yes. Don't. The red and the white are quite beautiful." Just as they were talking, the two fake foxes bit the cage at the same time and jumped to both sides. The cage suddenly split into two and the two fake foxes jumped out of the cage. Ah! Miss Jiang and the maidservant screamed and retreated. They were so shocked that their faces turned pale. They pulled each other and fell to the ground, seeing stars. Bai Yi leaned against the tree branch and swung her legs leisurely. She played with the hair beside her ear with her fingers and smiled proudly. Her eyes lit up. The two fake foxes suddenly jumped onto Miss Ping Jiang and her servant girl. Their sharp claws kept scratching at their clothes as they bared their fangs and barked at them. Miss Jiang and the maidservant were so scared that they kept screaming. They couldn't remember anything and could only see the terrifying sharp teeth in front of them. They were so scared that their souls were about to fly away. The servants of the Jiang mansion heard the noise and ran over. Bai snorted and waved her hand to make the two fake foxes run away so that they wouldn't bump into anyone. Then, she landed in front of Miss Jiang and the maidservant before anyone arrived. She looked into their eyes and said, "You don't know anything. You just had a nightmare. When you wake up, you will forget everything. You won't remember anything." Fox demons had many skills, and sex was one of them. After Miss Jiang and the maidservant were touched, their eyes became unfocused and they fainted one after another. Bai picked up the broken cage, turned around, and disappeared. The servants of the Jiang mansion rushed into the courtyard and saw Miss Jiang, and the maidservant fainted on the ground with their clothes disheveled. They were so embarrassed that the skin on their legs and arms was exposed. The woman in charge hurriedly ordered the servants to go away. She asked the maidservants to carry the two girls into the house and asked the doctor to take a look. However, the servants saw it. There was more than one man who saw the skin of Miss Jiang. If this spread out, it would ruin the chastity of all the sisters in the Jiang family. This time, it was much more serious than the last time when they fell off the sedan chair. Magistrate Jiang and his wife were furious when they found out and immediately ordered a strict investigation. Chapter 186. Miss Jiang was a concubine's daughter, so she had to keep a low profile when she bought a fox to vent her anger. She didn't dare to let the mistress know. Therefore, when she and her maid both fainted, no one in the mansion knew about the fox, let alone Master Zhuang Yulong. After the doctor came, he only diagnosed that the master and servant were overly frightened, but everything else was normal. It was too strange that they were overly frightened. Why would they be overly frightened in their own courtyard? Could it be that someone had come in? The news that a flower thief had sneaked into Miss Jiang's courtyard with ill intentions quickly spread among the servants of the Jiang mansion, and became an unspeakable secret. When the servants met each other, their eyes seemed to contain something mysterious, as if there were turbulent waves hidden under the calm water. The magistrate's wife was furious and ordered the whole mansion to be under martial law and investigate carefully. She couldn't ignore the master and servant who didn't wake up. She invited the 3 best doctors in the city to take a look, but they were all overly frightened and nothing else. However, the 2 didn't wake up no matter what, and they were helpless. The gatekeeper saw that Miss Jiang's maidservant frequently went out, and when she finally returned, she mysteriously took something with her. The magistrate's wife was even angrier. She knew that this concubine's daughter was troublesome and brought trouble upon herself. Now that rumors were everywhere in the mansion, if they couldn't control it and spread, wouldn't her own daughter be implicated? The magistrate's wife wanted to kill them directly, but the servants in the mansion were paying attention to this matter, so she couldn't do it casually. She was even more afraid that there really was a flower thief who couldn't be found and would harm her daughter in the end. After being in a dilemma, she decided to wake them up as soon as possible. The doctor was useless, so the old lady of the Jiang family spoke. "It doesn't look like an ordinary illness. Go and ask a Taoist priest to come back. Remember, do it secretly and don't let anyone know." If the magistrate's family asked a Taoist priest, it would cause all kinds of speculation. The magistrate's wife also knew the severity of the matter, so she asked the housekeeper to ask a Taoist priest secretly. The Taoist priest who stayed in the city wasn't particularly powerful. When he arrived at the Jiang mansion and saw the situation, he said a lot of things that others couldn't understand. Then he set the table and began to dance mysteriously. Bai passed by while shopping and heard the Taoist priest's voice. She curiously ran into the Jiang mansion and hid in the dark to watch the show. She was a little surprised that the master and servant hadn't woken up yet. This was also the first time she had used a spell on an ordinary person. Perhaps she had not grasped the strength of the spell properly and had used too much force. She originally wanted to wake the master and servant up, but on second thought, wouldn't it be that stinky Taoist's credit if they woke up now? Zhengming had demons and ghosts, so it was normal for him to be cured by a doctor. Therefore, she deliberately waved her hand to make trouble, so that the Taoist priest could not light the talisman. It was very embarrassing. Bai covered her mouth and laughed quietly. The prefectural magistrate's wife frowned and left in a huff. Soon after, The housekeeper politely and distantly invited the Taoist priest out. The prefectural magistrate's wife flew into a rage and scolded the housekeeper. She ordered him to invite a truly capable Taoist priest. Before that, he would ask the doctor to come and take a look. Bai Yi had been paying attention to the movements of the Jiang family. Seeing that the doctor had come, she also ran over and woke up the master and servant. The doctor was performing acupuncture on the two of them. When he saw that they had woken up, he heaved a sigh of relief and smiled. "You're fine now that you're awake. You must have been scared out of your wits. That's why you slept for so long. It's normal, it's normal." The prefectural magistrate's wife sent the doctor away and immediately questioned Miss Jiang. "What exactly happened that day? Why are you unconscious in the courtyard with your clothes disheveled? Did you see anyone? What did you ask your maidservant to bring back?" Miss Jiang was frightened by her serious attitude. She tried hard to recall, but couldn't remember anything. Suddenly, she became even more scared. "Mother, I don't remember. That day, I was just embroidering and reading as usual. I didn't do anything inappropriate. My clothes were disheveled. How is that possible? It's impossible." "Impossible? Not only were your clothes disheveled, but your skin was also seen by 7 or 8 servants." "What?" Miss Jiang's eyes instantly widened. She shrank to the corner in horror and kept shaking her head. "I don't believe it. I don't believe it. How is that possible? I didn't do anything." The prefectural magistrate's wife didn't get anything out of her, and her anger rose. However, Miss Jiang didn't seem to be lying at all. It seemed that she really didn't remember. She had no choice but to ask someone to take the maidservant away and interrogate her severely. However, the maidservant was the same as Miss Jiang. She didn't remember anything at all. No matter how she interrogated her, she couldn't get anything out of her. In the end, Bai Yi didn't understand human beings. She thought that if she didn't remember, everything would be fine. She didn't know that this not remembering was the biggest abnormality. The master and servant of the Jiang family looked like that in the courtyard. Even if they had a nightmare, it would be no different from being possessed, right? The old lady of the Jiang family believed in these things the most. She insisted that they were stained with something dirty, and asked the housekeeper to invite a Taoist priest with real ability. The housekeeper hurried to find someone. He secretly inquired about a Taoist priest with real ability, and went to invite them. Zhuang Lushi received the banknotes and lived a happy life. She didn't do anything at home and just waited for Bai Yi to serve her. She was very comfortable and didn't pay attention to the Jiang family's affairs at all. Naturally, she didn't know that something had happened to Miss Jiang. She was leisurely and carefree. She urged Zhuang Yulong to study all day long. Zhuang Yulong was almost out of breath under her stare. In the past, his mother was a beautiful symbol for him. She was gentle, strong, and kind. But now, Zhuang Lushi had become greedy, selfish, and unreasonable. Zhuang Liushi's many shortcomings that he didn't want to accept were exposed. He really couldn't accept it more and more and didn't want to stay in this family. So the cave in the suburbs became the place where he escaped from Zhuang Lushi. There was a beautiful and obedient fox there, who always played with him and made him happy. He sometimes took Bai Yi with him, but most of the time, Zhuang Lushi would let Bai Yi do things, and he would go by himself. And Zhuang Lushi seemed to have more and more opinions about Bai Yi. She hated him getting along with Bai Yi. In order not to listen to Zhuang Liushi's nagging, he naturally reduced the time he spent with Bai Yi. Bai Yi's camouflage became more and more skilled in these few days. Whether it was a fake fox or a fake Bai Yi, she could easily deceive the mother and son of the Zhuang family. Anyway, she always got along with Zhuang Yulong. Every time she was happy, it was true. When she was a fox, she heard Zhuang Yulong holding her and talking about his dissatisfaction with Zhuang Lushi, the pressure of studying, and his love for Bai Yi. All the words that he couldn't say to others, he said to the white fox. When Bai Yi heard this, she only felt that she had become the closest existence to her benefactor. When she was Bai Yi, Zhuang Yulong would also talk to her about the fox. How much he liked the fox made Bai Yi very happy. She also gradually moved her heart in this kind of interaction. She made a paper crane and sent a message to Chu Xiang. Xiang, or what should I do? I seem to like my benefactor, He also likes me. You. Do you want me to marry him? After I marry him, I will wash his clothes and cook for him, give birth to a few cute children for him, and then help him to have a meteoric rise. Will I be repaying his kindness? When Chu Xiang received the message, she was on the way back to the town. She replied to Bai Yi with a face full of question marks. Are you possessed? Was your head kicked by a donkey? You cultivated for hundreds of years just to do this? Li Yufeng couldn't stop laughing. He ridiculed on the side. I haven't seen her for a few days, and she went astray? Hey, that's not right. Isn't this what many women do? If they are happy, there's nothing wrong with that, right? It's just that humans and demons have different paths. It's not easy. Chu Xiang glanced at him. Why don't you let a man take care of his wife and children? Bai Yi is so much stronger than a scholar, but she has to hide herself and pretend to be a weak woman to be his vassal. Is she crazy? Li Yufeng was immune to her various thoughts. He rubbed the back of his head and said, taking care of his wife and children sounds not bad. Xiang, what do you think of me? I'm very obedient and very suitable to be a good husband. No, a good husband. Also, I can help you beat up that stinky Taoist priest, help you find people, and help you gather information. Aren't you and I good in every way? Can't be more suitable, right? And Chu Xiang glanced at him. Are you a vixen or am I a vixen? Why do I feel like you're a slut? No, I don't think so. Just these few Li Yufeng stood in front of her and watched as she walked backwards. He smiled and said, think about it. Don't you like good-looking people? I'm good-looking. Don't you like capable people? I can do it. Also, don't you like obedient people? I'm obedient. Do you think I'm a vixen? That means we're fated to be together. Chu Xiang raised her hand and pushed him to the side. If you want to warm the bed, it depends on your performance. Find those 3 stinky Taoists first. Don't talk nonsense here. Find them, I'll find them immediately. Li Yufeng took out the 8 trigrams plate and began to search for their location. They had followed some traces before, but those 3 Taoists had already left. They searched for new traces and didn't expect to return to the city. It seemed like those 3 didn't receive any news from their companions and decided to come find them personally. Li Yufeng and Chu Xiang found the 3 Taoists outside the city, but they just happened to see someone invite them into a carriage. Li Yufeng frowned slightly and carefully identified it. Isn't that the Jiang Estate's carriage? Why did they invite these Taoists? I didn't hear about their relationship. Chu Xiang stretched and said, is it because you're not up to date with the news? How is that possible? Who am I? I'm known as the Jianghu all-knowing scholar. There's nothing in this world that I don't know. Chu Xiang immediately looked at him and raised her eyebrows. So you knew about the grudge between us and those stinky Taoists from the beginning? Li Yufeng giggled. Of course I knew. Otherwise, why would I help 2 demons kill the Taoists? But so what if I know? Haven't I always been good to you? I'm even better now, and I'll be even better in the future. I'll be as good as I want. How about it? Will you accept me? Don't you think that humans and demons are different now? Have you forgotten that you're a human and I'm a demon? Chu Xiang looked at him and really wanted to know what he was thinking. Li Yufeng didn't care. Humans and demons are different because they can't accept it. How can I be the same? I like you so much. Shameless. I can't be shameless in front of you. Otherwise, I won't be able to exchange a glance for a lifetime. Chu Xiang laughed. Then you can continue to be shameless. Right now, take revenge for me first. Let's go and see what the relationship between the Jiang estate and those 3 Taoists is. Li Yufeng was very familiar with the city, so he quickly took Chu Xiang into the Jiang estate. One of the 3 Taoists was poisoned with cold poison. His face was pale and he was a little weak. As soon as he entered the Jiang estate, he was settled in the VIP room. One of the other 2 happened to be good at medicine, so he was asked to treat Miss Jiang. The Taoist frowned when he saw Miss Jiang's face and eyes. What a strong demon aura. What? Demon aura? The magistrate's wife was shocked. Although she listened to the old lady's words, she didn't believe it. She was just trying to make a last resort. But the word demon aura really scared her. Where did the demon come from? Why did the demon come to harm the Jiang estate? Were they in danger? How to kill the demon? She had a lot of questions to ask. The Taoist was very familiar with this situation. He didn't give her a chance to speak, and took out a long list of things to let the magistrate's wife prepare. Sometimes the more arrogant a person was, the easier it was to be trusted. The magistrate's wife was like this. Hearing the orders of the Taoist, she immediately ordered people to do it, and even treated the Taoist respectfully. The Taoist felt something was wrong. He found an excuse to cultivate, and went back to the room to talk to the other two Taoists. What happened? The demon aura here is very strong. That concubine's daughter was obviously bewitched by the fox spirit. Big Brother and the others didn't do anything. Could it be that something happened? The Taoist who was poisoned coughed a few times. It's all my fault. If it weren't for refining pills for me, you wouldn't have schemed against those two fox spirits. Now, I don't know what background those two fox spirits have. Maybe their companions really found them. Impossible. Before we dealt with them, Big Brother found out clearly that they relied on each other for survival, and had no relatives or friends. Although their cultivation was strong, they were ignorant and the easiest to deal with. If they had relatives or friends, why didn't they bring them to the snow mountain? That makes sense. But who did this to the concubine's daughter? It can't be those two fox spirits who were dying, right? How could they recover so quickly? But if they really recovered their cultivation, then the disappearance of Big Brother and the others can be explained. The three of them were a little uneasy. They didn't come up with any ideas for a long time. As long as they cured Miss Jiang first, they would see what she knew. Chu Xiang went to look at Miss Jiang. It was Bai Yi who did it. How did she provoke Bai Yi? Li Yufeng touched his chin and asked. How do you know that Bai Yi didn't tease her because of last time's matter? Chu Xiang rolled her eyes at him. Of course I know my little sister. After that time, Bai Yi might not remember her. If she didn't court death and provoke Bai Yi wouldn't find trouble with her. Let's go and find Bai Yi to see what's going on. We can see if her brain is damaged. She actually wants to marry that scholar and have a few children. Li Yufeng saw her leave and hurriedly followed. He laughed and said, with you as her sister, I don't think she can marry. She can marry, but if she marries like her, she will be crippled sooner or later. Li Yufeng also felt that Bai Yi was too simple. She had a lot of skills, but she didn't know how to use them. She didn't understand the rules of the world. If she really married into the Zhuang family, something would happen sooner or later. The two of them rushed to the Zhuang family's house. It was a coincidence that Zhuang Lushi accidentally let Zhuang Yulong know that she sold the fox. The Zhuang family's mother and son quarreled. Bai Yi didn't know what to do. When she saw Chu Xiang, she hurriedly ran to her side. Xiang, are you back? They are quarreling so fiercely. Help me think of a way to stop them. Stop them for what? Let them quarrel. But you come tell me what you think. Chapter 187. When Bai Yi saw Chu Xiang's face, she immediately lowered her head like a child who had done something wrong. Her hands uneasily twisted her clothes and she stuttered. I remember what you said to me. I didn't get cheated. It's just, I found out that he likes me. Then I also think he is very good. I am very happy with him. I miss him when I can't see him, so Bai Yi remembered the days they spent together and smiled shyly. Xiang, do you know? When Benefactor talked to the white fox, he didn't know that Bai Yi could hear him, so he had a lot of feelings for Bai Yi. It's me. When he talked to Bai Yi, he also said many times that he liked the white fox very much. It's me. Isn't this the fate of the border? Chu Xiang glanced at her. Bai Yi's expression and eyes were completely falling in love. In fact, she could understand, because from Bai Yi's childhood, no one had ever treated Bai Yi as well as the scholar. And Bai Yi was not like her, who had seen all kinds of things in the world and knew the complexity of people's hearts. Bai Yi only thought of pure love now, that's all. Chu Xiang pondered for a moment and nodded. Everyone needs to grow up alone. If you don't experience some hardships, how can you grow up? If you want to marry, then marry, but listen to me, don't have children. If you want to have children, wait for 3 years after you get married. If you are still firm in your feelings at that time, I will sincerely bless you. These words sounded a bit wrong, full of a bad prophecy. Bai took her arm and shook it. Xiang, or do you hate benefactor very much? Are you afraid that he won't treat me well? Chu Xiang looked at the scholar who was arguing with Zhuang Lushi from a distance and chuckled. I have no feelings for him. I don't hate or like him. If you want to be happy with him, 99% of the time you won't, but there is a little possibility that you will really be happy with him. It's very complicated to get along with people in the world. No one can control the change of people's hearts. If I let you go now, you will definitely think about it for a lifetime. It's better for you to experience it yourself and grow up in the crowd. Remember, if there's nothing you can't get through, come find me when you've thought it through. I'll always be here. Bai blinked hard, blinked away the tears in her eyes, smiled and hugged Chu Xiang. I know Xiang, or will always be the best to me in this world. If you are a man, I will marry you. Li Yufeng coughed heavily. Cough, cough. There's one more thing I need to talk to you about. You're the one who did it to Sister Jiang, right? Now that they've invited a Taoist priest over, if they find out that it's related to you, I'm afraid the Zhuang family won't be able to live in peace. Invite a servant? Bai asked, puzzled. Didn't you say that she's a concubine's daughter of the Jiang family, and isn't favored? Why are you mobilizing so many people? Because the reputation of a concubine's daughter may affect the reputation of all the women in the clan. There are many rules in the world, so I told you not to act rashly. Only by understanding these rules can you know when you should act, and when you shouldn't. Chu Xiang explained to her the importance of a concubine's daughter, a legitimate daughter, and a woman's reputation. Of course, Bai didn't quite understand. It was the first time she'd heard of such a thing. In the stories of her predecessors, there were even women who got pregnant before marriage. How could she know that there were such strict rules in the world? Bai said with annoyance. I seem to be too impulsive. That day, I was just angry. I didn't even bother with her, but she actually wanted to take us back and skin us to feed the dogs. I was afraid of causing trouble, so I only taught her a lesson. I didn't expect that she would still cause trouble. What should I do? How about we go to the capital ahead of time and leave this place? Chu Xiang and Li Yufeng looked at her at the same time. Bai froze for a moment and looked puzzled. Why are you looking at me like that? Is it wrong? Li Yufeng touched his chin and considered his words. It's right to leave this place, but you've already caused trouble here. If you go to the capital, won't the trouble be even bigger? The skills of the Taoists here are average. If you want to hide, you can hide. If you're in the capital, you might really be caught and skinned to refine pills. Bai said confidently. Don't look down on me. I didn't know before, but now that I know my weakness, I will reflect on it and won't use magic easily. Chu Xiang shook her head. Then I'm afraid you'll be wronged. The three of them didn't say much before the mother and son inside finished arguing. Bai hurriedly went back and pretended to have just come out of the house. She transmitted her voice. Xiang, don't worry. I'll be careful and won't let myself be wronged. Li Yufeng clicked his tongue and whispered to Chu Xiang. She's stubbornly clinging to her own course. She'll probably be very miserable. Chu Xiang sneered. How miserable can it be? It's just an experience in thousands of years. When she looks back in the future, she might be able to smile indifferently. But what if she can't get over this emotional barrier? Then she's destined to not be able to walk the path of cultivation. Sooner or later, she'll be defeated by this barrier. It's better to reincarnate early and start over. Chu Xiang turned and left. Li Yufeng hurriedly followed. He looked at her side profile and sighed. Sometimes I really don't know if you're affectionate or cold-hearted. But you're always right, and people like you very much. Affectionate or cold-hearted? Chu Xiang thought for a moment and smiled. It depends on my mood. Don't you know that I'm evil? I've always been so carefree. Li Yufeng looked at her without blinking. Xiang, you should smile more. You look especially good when you smile. Chu Xiang raised her eyebrows. Really? All vixens are good-looking. No, it's not just physically good-looking. It's that kind of pleasure that can be felt from the depths of one's soul. I don't know why, but you look really good when you smile. Chu Xiang didn't expect that she would be able to charm a demon hunter in this life after becoming a demon. Walking into the Li family, she hooked onto Li Yufeng's collar and closed the distance between them. If you don't know why, then show it to me. Let me understand what you're thinking. Maybe if I'm happy, I'll teach you the Fox clan's charm techniques. The Li family's spirit gathering array was activated. Chu Xiang brought Li Yufeng to the bathing pool. With a slight raise of her hand, the pool water became warm and comfortable. Then 2 sets of clothes were thrown onto the bed one after the other. They studied the mysteries of the charm techniques and dual cultivation. Strength should be matched with pleasure. This was also the reason why Chu Xiang let Bai Yi experience it herself. People who cultivate have all kinds of purposes. They want to become immortals, want to be strong, want to have fun, want to look down on the heroes. No matter what the purpose is, the pleasure of enjoyment should be matched with strength. Otherwise, what is the point of cultivation? She herself was a complete hedonist, but that was also because she was strong enough to understand all kinds of rules. If Bai Yi wanted to be a great demon freely, she also had to learn these. If she couldn't learn it, then the pain would come sooner rather than later. It was easier to solve the problem early than late. It was true that a good dual cultivation method could make one's body and mind happy. Of course, Chu Xiang knew the best dual cultivation method. When she came out of the bath, she was already refreshed, as if she had just cultivated. Li Yufeng's face was full of joy. He was very diligent in preparing Chu Xiang's favorite dishes. Then, he told Chu Xiang all the things he could remember about the Taoists and made a plan to deal with them. It was a moonless and windy night. They drank and chatted at home until late at night. After calculating the time when the 3 Taoists opened the altar, they sneaked into the Jiang mansion again. Chu Xiang floated into Miss Jiang's room from the back window. Because they were afraid of attracting monsters, there were 6 maidservants around Miss Jiang, and there were also servants outside the door. Chu Xiang put 2 fingers together, and a spiritual talisman appeared on her fingertips. She silently made a gesture, and threw out the spiritual talisman. The spiritual talisman flew to Miss Jiang very quickly, firmly attached to Miss Jiang's back, and flashed and disappeared. When Chu Xiang floated away, Miss Jiang suddenly felt dizzy and couldn't keep awake. She couldn't support her head and fainted. The maidservants were in a panic. They hurriedly helped her lie down, and went out to report to the magistrate's wife. The Taoist priest who was practicing in the yard suddenly opened his eyes and stared at Miss Jiang's room. He scolded, "Evil creature! Where are you going?" Then he chased after her. "Taoist priest! Hey Taoist priest!" The prefectural magistrate's wife panicked. She hurriedly sent people to protect her children and the old lady. She also sent for the other 2 Taoist masters. Who would have thought that when the servants arrived, they would discover that the other 2 Taoist priests had also disappeared. From the footprints, it seemed that they had also left the residence. The prefectural magistrate's wife clutched the prayer beads in her hands and kept chanting, "Bodhisattva bless me! Bodhisattva, bless! You must ask Taoist priest to subdue the demon. Oh no matter if he subdues it or not, don't come to my Jiang mansion and cause trouble again." Chu Xiang purposely didn't restrain her demonic aura to lure the 3 Taoists out of the city. The Taoist who was good at setting up formations was more cautious. He chased after them and said, "Something's not right. Let's go back first. We're here to find Big Brother and look for things to refine pills. Whether or not the Jiang family's matter is resolved has nothing to do with us." The Taoist priest who was good at medicine said, "Big Brother and the others lost contact around here. And a powerful fox spirit just happened to appear here. Don't you think it's too much of a coincidence? What if there was a connection? We must find this fox spirit, Major." The Taoist priest who was poisoned by the cold poison coughed a few times and said with difficulty, "If we're sure to win, then let's go. If not, then forget it." Chu Xiang sat on the branch above their heads and smiled. "You don't have to fight. None of you can leave today." Fox spirit. The 3 of them were shocked. They looked up at the same time, and immediately made a defensive posture. Chu Xiang laughed outside and said, "What's wrong? I can't believe that you didn't notice that I was sitting here. When you schemed against me and my sister, Didn't you check our cultivation levels? The three of them stepped back at the same time. They were even more surprised when they saw Chu Xiang floating down from the branch. You're the fox spirit in May Mountain? How is it possible? You were dying that day. It was obvious that you were seriously injured and couldn't be cured. How? Chu Xiang walked toward them with her hands behind her back and smiled. How can I recover so quickly? Because I'm favored by Taoism. You're all so unlucky. You're not favored by Taoism. Are you looking for your big brother? You can't find him. You killed him. The three Taoist priests were shocked and angry. They used their strongest magic to attack Chu Xiang. Chu Xiang easily dodged the attack. Other than Li Yufeng, no one else would be able to survive. She displayed her true strength without any scruples. Of course, she had a much easier time than dealing with the three Taoists from before. The three of them were simply unable to resist. The Taoist priest who was poisoned fell beside the tree. He took out a bag of medicinal powder and was about to scatter it when the bag was taken away by a hand from behind the tree. Li Yufeng leaned against the tree and sniffed the medicinal powder. He looked at him in disdain and said, "You're too despicable. You actually used an aphrodisiac. Is there something wrong with your brain?" He suddenly realized and said, "Oh, you must have no other medicine on you. It seems like you've done a lot of wicked things. You even carry this kind of medicine with you. You're really helping the people get rid of evil." The Taoist priest saw him clearly and said angrily, "You're not a demon? Are you human? How can you help this demon do evil?" Li Yufeng spread his hands and said, "She's our queen. Of course I have to listen to her. TSK, do you guys have nothing better to do? You're sick but you don't want to cure it. Instead, you went to scheme against the fox demon. Are you bullying her because she hasn't left the mountain and doesn't know anything? You've kicked an iron plate, haven't you? You. PFFF. The Taoist priest was already poisoned. He was so angry that he spat out a mouthful of blood. Li Yufeng said in surprise, "I can make you vomit blood?" He shook his head and said, "All right, I'm sorry. You can go first." He then sent out a palm. This palm seemed ordinary, but it was extremely fast. The Taoist priest wanted to dodge, but he couldn't. He took a solid hit and died instantly. Li Yufeng took off the storage bag on his body and looked at the medicinal powder in his hand. He threw it at him in disgust and set him on fire. On the other side, Chu Xiang had already dealt with the two Taoist priests. She also set fire to them and took back 2 storage bags. The two of them poured the contents of the storage bags on the ground. Li Yufeng rummaged around and said, "What's all this?" "A bunch of medicinal herbs. These things are good, but I don't know how to refine them. The longer they are left here, the more spiritual energy they will consume. It's a waste." These 3 people probably stayed because they were sick, so they gave all the good things to the 3 people in front of them. Most of the things they left were medicinal herbs, but they were all good ones. Chu Xiang opened a box and saw the Shan Xuelian inside. She smiled and said, "It's this thing that tempted us sisters." So they really got the Shan Xuelian. Li Yufeng sighed and said, "My family has an alchemy furnace passed down from my ancestors, and also a manual. But I can't learn it so fast." Chu Xiang smiled and said, "Learn what? I know how to." "Ah, you know how to?" Li Yufeng saw Chu Xiang stand up and leave. He immediately tidied up the things on the ground and chased after her. "Hey, why do I find that you know how to do everything? Who did you learn from?" "I'm not telling you." Chu Xiang tilted her head and smiled at him. "It's not necessarily good to know too much. Even if you're by Shaosheng, you should never ask about me." Li Yufeng was smart and immediately understood. He held her hand and smiled. "I promise, I will never ask about you. Let's go back and refine pills." Chu Xiang pulled him and flew back home. It could be foreseen that the days ahead would not be boring at all. Just Li Yufeng alone was very interesting. Demons had a long lifespan. Did she find herself a playmate? Li Yufeng's biggest advantage was that he respected Chu Xiang very much. If Chu Xiang did not want him to know, he really would not ask, nor would he inquire from other places. When the two returned home, he went to the storeroom and took out the alchemy furnace passed down by the Li family's ancestors. He gave it to Chu Xiang. My family's treasure, I'll give it to you. He hugged Chu Xiang from behind. I'll give you everything in my family's storeroom. Is it enough as a betrothal gift? Chu Xiang looked at the alchemy furnace. Why don't I find more things to give you as a betrothal gift and let you follow me to the mountains to be my husband? Li Yufeng laughed heartily. Okay, it's a deal. Then I'll wait for your betrothal gift. Chu Xiang turned around and rolled her eyes at him. I've never seen someone as happy as you when they're about to get married. Go over there, I'm going to refine pills. Li Yufeng kissed her and obediently sat down at the side to watch Chu Xiang refine pills. Chu Xiang did not remember how many years she had lived as a devil cultivator. In any case, she knew what she should know and what she shouldn't know. Her attainments in alchemy were not shallow. Although she had transmigrated to so many worlds and had not touched alchemy for a while, when the alchemy furnace and herbs were placed in front of her, she immediately got started. She was very skilled. She had always been focused when she did things, so she didn't even know when it was bright. When all the herbs in front of her were used up, Li Yufeng had already prepared breakfast and was waiting for her. Li Yufeng saw her stop and asked, "How is it? Are these herbs suitable? If you don't like them, we can go find good spiritual plants." Chu Xiang put words on the dozens of white porcelain bottles in front of her and shook her head. We don't need any pills, so there's no need to look for them. We'll find them when we find them. These are not bad, especially the mountain snow lotus. I refined 3 snow lotus pills, which can broaden the meridians, nourish the yin and yang, heal serious injuries and help people advance. The 3 of us will each have 1. Okay. Li Yufeng took the snow lotus pill handed over by Chu Xiang, and his heart was filled with endless joy. He directly put the snow lotus pill into a pendant with a mechanism and wore it around his neck. Instead of this best quality pill given to him by Chu Xiang, it was better to give him a share of her value and treat him as her own. He treasured this pill not to eat it, but as a token of love. He had to wear it every day. Chu Xiang moved her fingers and released a paper crane. She sent a message to Bai Yi. I got some pills. Come and get them. Remember to go to the Jiang mansion to deal with the aftermath and solve the trouble you caused. Li Yufeng was a little surprised. He scooped rice for her and said, You're not helping her this time? Chu Xiang held her chin and said, She has to experience more to mature. If I always help her, won't I be harming her? I just need to be here. And Li Yufeng understood something. He put down the bowl and asked, You want to follow her? Go to the capital? Otherwise, if she is really caught by the people in the capital, we can't save her because we are too far away. Anyway, we have nothing to do. Why don't we go to the capital where there are hidden dragons and crouching tigers to play? Chu Xiang took a bite of the chicken leg. She was a little surprised that she really liked to eat chicken after turning into a fox spirit. Li Yufeng gave her the other chicken leg and said with a smile, Then let's go to the capital to play. They enjoyed a warm breakfast in the yard, but the atmosphere in the courtyard of the Zhuang family was very stiff. Zhuang Yulong knew that Zhuang Lushi had sold the fox, so he went to the cave to look for it. Of course, Bai Yi couldn't make a fox to tease him again. After he came back, he was so angry that he didn't eat or talk to Zhuang Lushi. Zhuang Lushi panicked. She changed from reprimanding him to coaxing him. She even began to cry and complain about how difficult it was for her. She was afraid that the neighbors would know and affect Zhuang Yulong, so she only dared to cry in the house. This made things difficult for Bai Yi. Her hearing was too good. She almost listened to Zhuang Liushi's crying all night. After dawn, Zhuang Lushi also thought about it all night. She felt uneasy. She was afraid that her son would really resent her, so she said, I will go find that Miss Jiang and ask her to return the fox. I don't want the banknotes. I will return the banknotes to her. The Jiang family was in a mess. How could there be a fox? Wouldn't Zhuang Lushi be exposed if she went? Bai Yi hurriedly stopped her. Hey auntie, don't be anxious. If you go to find someone to ask for the fox, why would they care? Moreover, this is too rude. Zhuang Lushi shook off her hand and frowned. What does this have to do with you? You are not my family. Don't meddle in other people's business. Yesterday you saw me as a joke, right? Are you secretly laughing in your heart? Mother. Zhuang Yulong angrily pushed the door open. When will you calm down? Why did you become like this? The family has no peaceful days. If it is not because of this quarrel, then it is because of that quarrel. During the days when you were recuperating, it was Miss Bai who took care of you. The laundry, cooking, and cleaning of the house. Which one of them was not done by her? Why do you still dislike her? Why are you always nitpicking? Zhuang Lushi widened her eyes. You are actually criticizing me for such an unknown girl? Bai Yi heard the sound of the door opening next door. She hurriedly pulled Zhuang Lushi into the room and said with a smile, Auntie, Zhuang Xiu did not mean that. He is in a bad mood and anxious. I know my son better than you. There is no need for you to pretend to be kind. Zhuang Lushi shook off her hand again. Hearing her words, she became even angrier. They were mother and son. When did it become an outsider's turn to mediate? The fire in Bai Yi's heart burst out, but she maintained a smile on her face. She turned to Zhuang Yulong and said, Scholar Zhuang, didn't you say that those two foxes are very smart? Do they still recognize you? In my opinion, it is better to wait. They are very likely to be reluctant to part with you and run back on their own. However, of course, I cannot accept the money from Miss Jiang. I am about the same age as her. It is better for me to find her and return the money. Zhuang Yulong now felt from the bottom of his heart that his mother was an unreasonable shrew. As a man, it was inconvenient for him to find Miss Jiang. Of course, it was best for Bai Yi, a reasonable confidant, to go. He gratefully bowed. Then I will have to trouble Miss Bai. Scholar Zhuang is too polite. I should be grateful that you are willing to take me in. Zhuang Lushi looked at the two of them and compared it to the tit-for-tat between Zhuang Yulong and her. She was so angry that her heart hurt. How could she have the mind to find someone? She directly threw the banknotes and money on the table and went back to her room to lie down. Zhuang Yulong also apologized to Bai Yi for this. I really did not expect my mother to be like this. I am sorry. It's okay. Bai Yi's anger disappeared. After all, she was her benefactor's mother. She did not want to make things difficult for her benefactor. She came to repay her kindness. She hoped that she could appease Zhuang Lushi so that Zhuang Yulong could prepare for the exam in peace. Bai Yi went to the Jiang family quietly. She secretly observed and found that the people in the Jiang family were very frightened about the demon. They were also very concerned about Miss Jiang's loss of reputation. She thought about it and went to wake Miss Jiang up first. She once again used magic to make Miss Jiang forget what happened in the past few days. She turned into a fox and ran away. Zhuang Lushi returned the money. Then she used her power to blur the memories of the past few days in the Jiang family. This was not easy to do. After she finished using her power, she was sweating and very tired. However, this matter was finally over. No one would investigate why Miss Jiang fainted in the courtyard that day, and no one would worry about whether or not a demon would appear in the Jiang family. Bai Yi looked at the Jiang family that had returned to normal and felt deep regret. If she had not used magic in a moment of anger, how could it have been so troublesome? She would need to cultivate for at least half a month to recover the power she had lost. The gains did not make up for the losses. Moreover, if a Taoist priest or monk happened to see it, they would be able to see that the demon had used magic on the people in the Jiang family. This was a place of trouble, and she could not stay for long. Bai Yi frowned and warned herself not to act rashly. She went to the Li family and sighed to Chu Xiang. The world is really complicated. I don't know how long it will take for me to learn. I really want to go back to the mountains. Chu Xiang smiled and asked, Are you willing to part with your benefactor? I can't. Bai Yi was in a difficult position. She did not like to live in the crowd. She felt very tired. But in the end, her feelings of liking Zhuang Yulong prevailed, and she decided to stay. She made up her mind. I have decided. From today onwards, I will treat myself as an ordinary woman. I will not use magic. I will not use magic at all. This way, even if I don't understand the rules, I will not cause trouble. Chu Xiang shrugged. Up to you. Just treat yourself as an ascetic monk. It's good to experience it. Are you going to the capital? Yufeng and I will go too. We will be your neighbors. Bai Yi's eyes lit up. She happily held Chu Xiang's hand. Xiang. You are so nice. This way, we can always be together. But how can you be neighbors with the Zhuang family? Chu Xiang said casually. It's very simple. We are also going to take the exam. Bai Yi was puzzled. Take the exam? Who? Li Yufeng pointed at himself. Do I not look like a scholar? A pale-faced scholar. I only need to change my clothes and I'll look like one. When the time comes, our two families will become friends. When we go to the unfamiliar capital, isn't it reasonable to rent a courtyard and take care of each other? Li Yufeng was fair and clean, and looked very handsome. He really did look like a scholar. Furthermore, he was quite knowledgeable and smart. No one would be able to see through his disguise as a scholar. Who would have thought that he was actually a demon hunter? After Bai Yi looked at Li Yufeng, she pulled Chu Xiang and Gao Xian. Well, I will wait for you to meet on the road. With you, I am not afraid of anything. Chu Xiang gave the snow lotus pill to Bai Yi and gave her a few bottles of other pills. When Bai Yi learned that the 3 Taoist priests were also dead, the things in her heart were all settled. She went back to the Zhuang family with ease. Of course, she didn't forget to summon 2 gray foxes. Zhuang Yulong was very happy to see the foxes. He bathed the 2 foxes with Bai Yi. Bai Yi took the opportunity to mention to him about going to the capital. She was willing to take out her belongings as travel expenses. At first, Zhuang Yulong didn't agree. However, Bai Yi's neighbors had seen that the mother and son were not on good terms. If they continued to live here, if there were any rumors, it would be very unfavorable for him. Zhuang Yulong felt that it was very reasonable. He also had the idea of going to the capital in advance to discuss with Zhuang Lushi. Bai Yi naturally wanted to follow Zhuang Yulong and take care of him, especially since Bai Yi was the one who paid for the travel expenses. However, Zhuang Liushi's first thought was that her son had forgotten his mother after marrying a wife. Bai Yi hadn't even married into the family yet, but Zhuang Yulong wanted to take Bai Yi to the capital to enjoy life. How could he leave her alone in her hometown? Chapter 188. After the Zhuang family quarreled again, they decided to go to the capital together. Zhuang Lushi wanted to keep an eye on her son. She was afraid that Bai Yi, a beautiful orphan girl, would steal her son's heart. Once her son got a good reputation, he would marry a big sister. How could he be entangled with an orphan girl? Zhuang Yulong was moved for the first time. He had never been with other girls, so he was very resistant to Zhuang Liushi's method. However, he had no other way. He could only let Zhuang Lushi and Bai Yi follow him, as well as the 2 foxes. But these 2 women didn't understand. They didn't have to go directly to the capital to take the exam. Zhuang Yulong had to pass the exam first. The exam was in the town under the jurisdiction of their prefectural magistrate. Fortunately, the exam was coming, and it wouldn't be delayed for a long time. They could start to pack up their belongings and prepare to move. After Zhuang Yulong explained it to them, they began to be more harmonious than ever. For the peace of the family, Zhuang Yulong could concentrate on his studies. The 2 foxes now lived in the Zhuang family, and were taken care of by Bai Yi. Zhuang Yulong was very relieved. He didn't have to run out to play with the foxes every day. He really had a lot more time to study. But after the exam, he was the last one to pass the exam. Zhuang Yulong was hit hard. He didn't smile anymore. When he went out and met his old classmates, he was ridiculed. He simply locked himself in his room all day and didn't go out. Bai Yi ran to the Li family with a sad face and held Chu Xiang for help. Xiang, what should you do? How can I help him? He clearly passed the exam. Is the ranking really that important? How about? No. Bai Yi rolled her eyes. Chu Xiang guessed what she was going to do. Didn't you want to treat yourself as an ordinary woman and not use magic? Ordinary women can't do anything when they encounter this kind of thing. Don't think about tampering with the results or doing anything in the next exam. Once it's found that his answers are abnormal, he may be stripped of his qualifications to take the exam. He may even be thrown into prison. Bai Yi was startled. So serious? There are even more serious things than this. Just remember, don't get involved in things you don't understand. Li Yufeng poured a cup of tea and used his hand to touch the cup. When he felt that the temperature was just right, he passed it to Chu Xiang. He said earnestly, "Don't worry about him. If you cheat him to get a scholarly rank, his ability to be an official in the future will still be affected. At that time, the consequences will be even worse. Then should I just do nothing and watch him suffer?" Bai Yi was not willing to give up. After all, she could do many things, but because of the restrictions, she could not do anything. Chu Xiang smiled faintly. "You can comfort him. When he's tired from reading, you can help him relieve his fatigue. You can help him focus on reading. You can help him do many trivial and influential things. These won't cause any trouble, and it's good for him. It's better to let him pass the exam himself than fake it." Chu Xiang thought about it and changed her method. "For example, you and I have a hard time cultivating, but in the end, we have to cultivate ourselves to have the most solid cultivation. Those demons who use tricks to improve their cultivation will not have a good ending. Do you understand?" This made Bai Yi completely understand. She didn't think about this before. She always felt that it was easy to steal a question and change the answer. Since she could do it, why not do it? But when Chu Xiang said this, she understood. If someone helped her fake her cultivation, wouldn't she die if she really met a Taoist? She still had to be strong in order to have real ability. Bai Yi quickly figured it out and said with a smile, "I know what to do. I have to take care of everything for him, and let him concentrate on studying and taking the imperial exam." Bai Yi ran away happily. Li Yufeng shook his head. She's walking further and further on the road of being a good wife and loving mother. Chu Xiang felt that it didn't matter. As long as she enjoys it, it's fine. Don't we cultivate to be happy? If leaving that scholar will make her sad, then don't leave. Have you packed your things? You may not be back so soon. I've already packed. We can leave at any time. Then we'll wait for them in front. It's easier to believe that they'll meet by chance. Let's go. Chu Xiang sent a message to Bai Yi. She and Li Yufeng left in advance. They could also play along the way. Bai Yi also helped Zhuang Lushi to pack up the things in the Zhuang family. It was really too tiring to be an ordinary woman without using magic. She felt that there was endless work to do. So if she was alone now, she would secretly use some magic to work and pack up the things, which would make her much more relaxed. In the eyes of Zhuang Lushi and Zhuang Yulang, she was exceptionally capable. She took care of the Zhuang family inside and out very well. Zhuang Yulang was leaving. He specially went to visit his former teacher. The teacher didn't expect him to leave so early. Usually, before the students of their town went to the capital to take the imperial examinations, the prefectural magistrate would host a banquet to entertain them. The purpose was to form good karma and see if anyone was poor and would help them. In the teacher's eyes, Zhuang Yulang was a student with a poor family background. So the teacher recommended him to the prefectural magistrate in advance and thought of a way to ask the prefectural magistrate to meet him in his busy schedule. Zhuang Yulang was very talented in his studies. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to pass the imperial examinations at such a young age. Although his ranking wasn't ideal, he was still young. There were others who couldn't pass the imperial examinations at the age of 50, so the teacher thought highly of him. Naturally, he praised him in front of the prefectural magistrate. When the prefectural magistrate saw Zhuang Yulang, he casually asked a few questions. Zhuang Yulang answered without any merit or fault. The prefectural magistrate thought that it was his first time meeting an official. He was too nervous and didn't perform well. So the prefectural magistrate was very satisfied with him. Seeing Zhuang Yulang's dignified appearance and polite manner, he had an idea. He asked if Zhuang Yulang was married. Zhuang Yulang was stunned for a moment, and hurriedly answered that he wasn't married yet. The prefectural magistrate stroked his beard and looked at him. He nodded and asked someone to give him 50 taels of silver. After encouraging him, he asked him to leave. As soon as Zhuang Yulang and the teacher came out of the Jiang mansion, the teacher's face lit up with joy. "Yulang, great news! The prefectural magistrate has taken a fancy to you." Zhuang Yulang was still a little confused. "What does he like about me?" "Of course, he likes you to be his son-in-law." The teacher pulled him aside and whispered, "This time, even if you don't pass the imperial examinations, You must pass the Jinshe exam. It's impossible for the Jiang family's legitimate daughter to marry you. But there's a concubine's daughter in the Jiang family. A while ago, she accidentally fell from the sedan chair onto the street. So she's more or less affected. If you can pass the Jinshe exam, you'll probably be able to marry this concubine's daughter. At that time, the prefectural magistrate will take care of you and promote you. You'll have a bright future. Zhuang Yulong thought of Miss Jiang and Bai Yi at home. He lowered his head and said, I don't want to rely on him. And I. The teacher looked at his face and said in surprise, Don't tell me you already have a girl in mind? Yulong, don't let me remind you. You're just a Jiren now. There are only so many people who can match you. But if you pass the Jinshe exam or even pass the imperial examinations, you can marry a big sister and have a big family behind you. It'll be very beneficial for you in the future. Don't be confused. Marriage must wait. Don't decide at will. Zhuang Yulong listened to his teacher very much. He bowed and said, Don't worry, teacher. I just want to focus on the imperial examinations. I don't want to get married. That's good. Remember not to marry at will. You'll know in the future that I'm doing this for your own good. Bai Yi ran out to take Zhuang Yulong home. She didn't expect to hear such a conversation. She was a little confused. Why didn't Zhuang Yulong directly tell the teacher that he already had a sweetheart and had no interest in Miss Jiang? Why did Zhuang Yulong follow the teacher's advice that he didn't want to get married? Did he like Bai Yi before the white fox, but he never thought of marrying her? During this period of time, Bai Yi specially went to understand many rules about women. She knew that an orphan girl like her had lived in the Zhuang family for so long. If Zhuang Yulong didn't marry her in the end, no one else would be willing to marry her. Because in the eyes of those who knew, she was already living under the same roof with Zhuang Yulong. Although she didn't want to marry anyone else at all, Zhuang Yulong should be clear about this. Why didn't he tell the teacher at this time? Bai Yi thought for a moment and walked out of the alley. She smiled and greeted Zhuang Yulong. When the teacher saw such a beautiful and refined girl, he couldn't help but be surprised. This is, Zhuang Yulong hurriedly said, this is my cousin. After that, he felt that this was the most suitable identity for outsiders, so he continued, This is my mother's relative. Because no one in the family came to my mother, she temporarily lived in my Zheng family. For the first time, the sweetness in Bai Yi's heart had a different feeling. She was a little suspicious of Zhuang Yulong's attitude, but she didn't say anything because there were outsiders. The teacher stroked his beard and said with a smile, Your mother is kind. Well, you should make more friends in the capital and learn from others. I'll wait for you to return home in glory. Thank you, teacher. When the teacher left, Bai Yi also turned around with the basket. There was no expression on her face. Zhuang Yulong hurriedly followed and said in his heart, Is Miss Bai angry about what happened just now? I have no choice. Only if you are a relative of my family can I protect your reputation. I hope you can forgive me for offending you. Bai Yi endured and endured, but she still couldn't hold back. She looked at him and asked, Are you going to marry? Marry Miss Jiang of the magistrate's family? Do you like her? Zhuang Yulong blushed when he was asked. He looked around and said, You can't say that. It's just a guess of the teacher. Besides, I don't have such an intention. I just want to concentrate on the imperial exam. What about after the imperial exam? After that, what kind of wife do you want to marry? Bai Yi was unhappy in her heart. She had to ask for an answer. Zhuang Yulong had never seen such a bold woman. Looking at her angry face, he felt that it was very cute. His heart moved and he smiled. If I marry a wife, I naturally want to marry a virtuous wife. What kind of wife is considered a virtuous wife? Far away, close in front of you. Zhuang Yulong looked at Bai Yi, and Bai Yi's face slowly turned red. The displeasure just now disappeared, and the two of them opened up even more, adding a bit of sweetness and heat. Their eyes and smiles were full of shyness. Zhuang Lushi saw this and was even more displeased with Bai Yi. However, Zhuang Yulong didn't do well in the imperial exam, and was in a bad mood. She didn't say much. She suppressed all her dissatisfaction, and only prepared to go to the capital. Chu Xiang and Li Yufeng had already played around. They picked a rainy night and waited in a ruined temple not far from Bai Yi. Chu Xiang looked around in the ruined temple with her hands behind her back. Looking at the broken Buddha statue, she smiled and said, "Why do scholars always run into ruined temples to hide from the rain?" Li Yufeng squatted on the ground to make a fire. He laughed and said, "Other people will also run into it. It's just that it's not written in a book." Chu Xiang squatted beside him and asked curiously, "Have you seen many demons? How come we didn't see any along the way? Is there anything fun? Your aura is so strong. How can ordinary demons dare to approach you? Great demons usually cultivate deep in the mountains. They won't easily come to places with human habitation. Naturally, we won't meet them. It has to be fun." Li Yufeng touched his chin and thought for a moment. There is a snake demon in the green bamboo mountain ahead. He is good at medicine. Every day, he treats the common people for free and also tells their fortunes. But he is very brave. As soon as he finds traces of Taoist priests and monks, he hides. Other than me, no one seems to know that he is a demon. So kind. Is he accumulating merit to cultivate? His heart can sail for 10,000 years. It seems that he has adapted well in the human world. How about we go and take a look? I can hide my demonic aura. Don't expose that you are a demon hunter. Chu Xiang had transmigrated for a long time and hadn't seen any other demons. She couldn't wait to see them. Li Yufeng smiled. That's good. But don't change your mind. That snake demon is also quite good looking. Chu Xiang raised her hand and smeared 2 streaks of ash on his face. I can't guarantee that. The two of them were messing around. Coincidentally, Bai Yi, Zhuang Yulong, and Zhuang Lushi ran into the ruined temple. Bai Yi was naturally happy to see them. Zhuang Yulong turned around and looked a little embarrassed. Zhuang Lushi frowned. She felt that it was improper for them to be messing around. She was very unhappy. Chu Xiang and Li Yufeng stood up and asked, "Are you also here to take shelter from the rain? We can't find any dry wood now. Come and warm yourself with us." Chu Xiang naturally pulled Bai Yi over. "Sister, dry your clothes quickly. Don't catch a cold." Bai Yi took advantage of the situation and said, "Thank you, sister." "Brother Zhuang, aunt, come and warm yourself. We still have to hurry. If we catch a cold, it will be troublesome." This was the truth. If they fell ill on the way to the capital, they would have to spend a lot of money to see a doctor. Moreover, they would suffer. They had already hired a carriage to carry their things. If they fell ill, they wouldn't even have enough money. Zhuang Yulong politely thanked them and sat down. Li Yufeng casually chatted with him. After a while, he revealed that he was an examinee. He was very surprised that Zhuang Yulong also came to the capital to take the exam. Then, the two of them talked about essays and became familiar with each other. Scholars always made people look up to them. Zhuang Liushi's impression of Li Yufeng rose sharply. At the same time, she didn't like the beautiful Chu Xiang, who was wearing a red dress and chatting happily with Bai Yi. When she saw Chu Xiang and Li Yufeng messing around, she was even more certain that she was right to follow them. Otherwise, wouldn't Zhuang Yulong and Bai Yi be like that? Would they still study? Zhuang Lushi asked Chu Xiang sarcastically. "You're married? The elders in your family let you come to the capital to take the exam?" Chu Xiang didn't want to pay attention to her, so she casually said, "Of course we're married. We don't have any elders in our families." "No wonder," Zhuang Lushi muttered. "I have something that you might not like to hear." "Then don't say it." Chu Xiang smiled and blocked her words. "We met by chance. It can be considered fate. Why would you say something that others don't like to hear? This time you're going to the capital and are unfamiliar with the place. If your unpleasant words enter the noble's ears, it won't be good for your son's future, right?" Zhuang Liushi's first reaction was to think that she had a sharp tongue, but Zhuang Yulong beat her to it. Zhuang Yulong was one step ahead of her. "Sister-in-law is right. I'm sorry for being rude." Zhuang Lushi looked at Zhuang Yulong's expression and closed her mouth. However, she felt very uncomfortable in her heart. She felt that her son felt that she was embarrassing. However, when she looked at Chu Xiang and Li Yufeng's clothes, she felt that these two people were probably very rich. The material of their clothes was much better than theirs. She couldn't help but feel lucky that she didn't speak nonsense just now and became cautious. Bai Yi felt a burst of joy when she saw Chu Xiang scolding Zhuang Lushi. She transmitted her voice to Chu Xiang. Look at her face. It's like a pig's liver. She really deserves it. She only knows how to talk nonsense and meddle in everything. If only I could treat her like that. You can as long as you leave your benefactor. Brother Zhuang promised to marry me in private. He'll marry me after the exam. Chu Xiang glanced at her. Then there's no other way. When she becomes your mother-in-law, you'll suffer. What kind of addiction do you have? Why do you have to find trouble for yourself? I heard that there's a snake demon in the bamboo forest that's very good looking. Why don't I change it to someone else? Just repay your kindness. Why do you have to like him? Bai Yi was speechless. Can I control my liking? But I didn't want to be tempted by my benefactor in the beginning. How can I change it so easily? Then can you change Li Yufeng just like that? Chu Xiang wondered. Why can't I change it when it's necessary? Li Yufeng coughed a few times and handed Chu Xiang 2 roasted chicken legs. Well, I can hear your voice transmission. Consider me. I can't change it. I have whatever Xiang wants. Of course, there's no need to change it. Chu Xiang gave one of the chicken legs to Bai Yi, and then watched her give it to Zhuang Lushi. Zhuang Lushi insisted on giving it to Zhuang Yulong. In the end, Zhuang Yulong awkwardly refused and Zhuang Lushi ate it. Chu Xiang sighed. Why do I want you to change it? It's because of this difference. What do you want? Is it fun to take care of them? There's no equivalent return. It's boring. Everything was afraid of comparison. After Li Yufeng handed the chicken wings to Chu Xiang, Bai Yi was also puzzled by Zhuang Yulong, who was waiting to eat. Why did Li Yufeng always treat Chu Xiang well when he liked her, but Zhuang Yulong didn't seem to do anything for her? Bai Yi was a little depressed. Chu Xiang asked her to see the snake demon, but she didn't want to go. Who knew that Zhuang Lushi would mention Cuizhu Mountain? She had long heard that there was a medical immortal in Cuizhu Mountain. Not only was he skilled in medicine, but he was also very accurate in his fortune-telling. Now that she happened to pass by, she naturally wanted to see it. It would be best if she could tell that Zhuang Yulong was a literary star. Then she would be at ease. Hearing Zhuang Liushi's words, Li Yufeng said, Is it really so accurate? Then let's go and see. Zhuang Lushi glanced at Chu Xiang's belly and said, You're going to pray for children. That's right. That medical immortal not only knows fortune-telling, but also has great medical skills. He can see anything. Li Yufeng smiled and said, That's not it. Children's fate depends on luck. There's no need to force it. We're just going to watch the fun. Anyway, we're not in a hurry. There's no need to be in such a hurry and miss the beautiful scenery along the way. Zhuang Yulong said, Brother Li's words are very true. As the saying goes, reading 10,000 books is not as good as walking 10,000 li. It's not good to be in a hurry. We should appreciate the scenery along the way. In this way, they reached a consensus. Li Yufeng and Zhuang Yulong felt like old friends at first sight. Chu Xiang and Bai Yi chatted happily. Just by taking shelter from the rain in the temple, the distance between the two sides was shortened a lot. Chu Xiang and Li Yufeng also took a carriage. Only the two of them were more spacious. They put some of the Zhuang family's luggage to make the Zhuang family feel more comfortable. Then they could travel together. Because Zhuang Lushi was scolded by Chu Xiang, she didn't like her. However, it was rare for Zhuang Yulong to make a reading friend. She couldn't destroy it. She could only speak less and vent her anger on Bai Yi in private, making Bai Yi suffer a lot of grievances. This kind of grievance was willingly suffered by Bai Yi. But after being wronged so much, she couldn't help but think, was she sick? Why did she, a great demon beast, have to suffer the anger of an unreasonable woman here? She grew up with Chu Xiang. How happy was Chu Xiang now? How aggrieved was she? What did she want? The words that Chu Xiang asked her appeared more and more in her mind. If it weren't for the love between her and Zhuang Yulong, she really wanted to leave. The group of 5 people and the coachman of the Zhuang family's carriage walked to the green bamboo forest. They felt a kind of blessing like a spring breeze. Zhuang Lushi said happily. This place will definitely be effective. We must ask for it. Chu Xiang and Bai Yi restrained their demon aura and lined up behind the people. Bai Yi looked at the long line and said in surprise, Xiang, is it really a snake demon? He's so popular? Why? Yu Feng is a snake demon. You'll know when you see him later. He treats people and doesn't ask for money. Of course, the people like him. Some people say that his fortune-telling is accurate. Maybe he used magic to help others. The people believe in these things. Bai Yi nodded thoughtfully, looking at the people who came out of the bamboo house with grateful and happy faces. She thought of another question. Xiang, if one day they know that this immortal doctor is a snake demon, will they still like him? Of course not. Maybe 1 in 10,000 people will continue to like him. This is the so-called different path of humans and demons. Unless people know that he is a demon from the beginning, they can accept it. Bai Yi looked at Zhuang Yulong with worry in her heart. Zhuang Yulong liked a virtuous orphan girl named Bai Yi. If one day Zhuang Yulong knew that she was a fox demon and taught Miss Jiang and Zhuang Lushi a lesson, would he still like her? No. These two words suddenly appeared in Bai Yi's mind, making her face turn pale quickly. Seeing this, Zhuang Yulong said worriedly, What's wrong with you? Are you not feeling well? Bai Yi shook her head and said with a slight smile, Maybe it's because the sun is too strong and I've been standing for too long. Delicate, Zhuang Lushi muttered in an extremely loud voice. Chu Xiang, Bai Yi and Li Yufeng, who had cultivation bases, all heard it. For the first time, Bai Yi felt embarrassed. They were all Xiuzhou with high cultivation. Why was she the only one who was humiliated here, and could not resist? When it was their turn, Bai Yi's pale face matched the appearance of a sick person. So when they entered the bamboo house, the immortal doctor looked at Bai Yi, but he did not see anything wrong with her. He asked in puzzlement, Where is this girl not feeling well? Zhuang Lushi saw the immortal doctor directly ask Bai Yi and felt uncomfortable. She thought that Bai Yi was a fox demon that seduced others. Even the man she just met was asking her first. Zhuang Lushi squeezed to the front and smiled. Immortal doctor, it's not her. I want to ask you to calculate for my son, see if he can be the top scholar, and also see how his marriage is and how his children are. The immortal doctor nodded and gestured for Zhuang Yulong to sit down. He carefully looked at his face and palm. This young master was born with poor fortune. Impossible. Zhuang Lushi stood up and said agitatedly, How can he be born with poor fortune? My son became a top scholar at his age. His future is bright. You can't. Mother, don't be impatient. Zhuang Yulong frowned and interrupted her, apologizing to the immortal doctor. The immortal doctor was used to this kind of scene and said calmly, I'm not done yet. Although young master was born with poor fortune, he did a good deed and accumulated good karma. With the help of nobles, he will gain both fame and fortune. He will become the prime minister. Zhuang Lushi had just released a breath when she was dumbfounded. What? Prime minister? Prime minister? Zhuang Yulong was also shocked. Immortal doctor, you really? The immortal doctor nodded. Now it seems so. However, one's fate wasn't unchanging. It was just like how one's luck was originally poor, but because one did good deeds, one was rewarded with good fortune and good fortune. But if you don't cherish your fortune in the future, or offend the nobles, your fortune will change again. What will become of you then? I can't see now. Who is the nobles? Zhuang Lushi asked nervously. The immortal doctor shook his head gently. I can only do it. Zhuang Lushi said anxiously. Tell us who it is. We will treat him well. Just his name. The secret cannot be revealed. Bai Yi laughed. What secret cannot be revealed? He can't calculate it, right? This time, she used secret voice sending. Only Chu Xiang could hear her. Chu Xiang also laughed. He is a snake demon who has only cultivated for 300 years. It is very good that he can calculate so much. Xiang, is your nobles me? I can help you become the prime minister? Who else can it be other than you? The scholar has done such a good deed recently. Fortune tellers could never calculate things related to themselves, so this was the first time Bai Yi knew that she could help Zhuang Yulong so much. She was very happy. Finally, She did not have to worry about how to repay her benefactor. Although she didn't know exactly how to help, with the snake demon's prediction, she was finally relieved. Zhuang Yulong got up and saw Bai Yi. Immortal doctor, my cousin is a little unwell. Can I trouble you to take a look? The immortal doctor looked at Bai Yi. Her body is fine. Then, can you let her rest here for a while? The immortal doctor was a little confused about why Bai Yi's face was ugly, but her body was fine. This was a case he had never encountered before. He pointed to the soft couch behind the curtain. Rest there for a while, and see if you get better. Bai Yi was happy that Zhuang Yulong found her unwell, and enjoyed his concern. She slowly walked behind the curtain, and lay down on the soft couch. Zhuang Lushir was happy because she became the prime minister. She pulled Zhuang Yulong to ask the immortal doctor to calculate his marriage. Zhuang Yulong had no choice but to stay. Chu Xiang followed Bai Yi inside. The immortal doctor calculated for a moment and said, Gongzi's marriage is very good. You will marry a noble and virtuous wife. She will be able to protect Gongzi's wealth for 3 generations. Really? Ah, son, we finally made it. Zhuang Lushir cried with joy and held Zhuang Yulong's hand tightly. Zhuang Yulong was happy and sad because the noble and virtuous wife who could help him was obviously not an orphan like Bai Yi. Bai Yi even took out her family's wealth to make travel expenses for him. How could she help him? But if he married a noble lady, where would Bai Yi go? Zhuang Lushir wanted to ask again, but she saw the immortal doctor's face change and suddenly get up. I still have something to do. Please go ahead. The immortal doctor hurried into the inner room and walked to the back door. Bai Yi and Chu Xiang looked at each other. Chu Xiang smiled and said, He's really brave. A big monk came outside and scared him away. Bai Yi almost laughed out loud. He's too brave, right? He's doing a good deed, not doing evil. Why is he so afraid of a monk? That monk found him and chased after him. Let's go and take a look. Chu Xiang pulled Bai Yi and ran out from the back door. Anyway, the Zhuang family's mother and son were in a bad mood and couldn't care about them. Li Yufeng saw them running to join in the fun, and stayed to help take the Zhuang family's mother and son out. Chu Xiang and Bai Yi ran into the depths of the bamboo forest, and saw the big monk dragging an alms bowl to block the immortal doctor. He frowned and said, Snake demon? What are you trying to do by pretending to be a ghost here? Bai Yi snorted lightly. Are all the righteous people like this? They don't ask about the right and wrong and just convict demons? Can't demons be good? In their eyes, it's true. Only a minority can tolerate different kinds. Fortunately, your Li Yufeng is in the minority. Otherwise, we'd be in trouble. He's much more powerful than this big monk. Chu Xiang smiled and said, Don't worry, I won't let anyone become our trouble. The immortal doctor bowed respectfully and said, Great master, you've misunderstood. I wasn't born here to do evil. I'm doing good deeds and helping people to eliminate their illnesses. If you don't believe me, you can ask around. If you didn't do anything wrong, why did you run away when you saw me? I didn't want to be misunderstood by others and have a confrontation like this happen. I've been living here for more than 3 years. I've been doing good deeds and concentrating on cultivation. I've never had a trace of evil thoughts. I hope the great master can see it clearly. The big monk didn't buy it and said coldly, I think you're deceiving people with your lies. I don't know what method you use to confuse innocent people. Since I've met an evil beast like you today, how can I let you live? The big monk attacked without saying anything. The snake demon only defended and didn't attack. It obviously didn't want to hurt people, and it didn't seem to have any fighting experience. Bai Yi tilted her head and said, Why is he so tolerant? That old bald donkey is too much. He directly sentenced him to a crime. Is he waiting to be caught if he doesn't fight back? Chu Xiang picked up a few leaves and played with them in her hand. Some people might have rules for cultivation, such as not killing, not eating meat, not being close to women, and so on. Bai Yi said in surprise, If there's no fun at all, what's the point of cultivation? Chu Xiang looked at her and smiled. How do you know there's no fun? Just like when I asked you why you pretended to be an orphan and suffered in the Zhuang family. Didn't you also think that it's good to be with a scholar? This kind of thing, only people know it. Outsiders don't understand. Bai looked at the snake demon being bullied by the monk and suddenly thought of Chu Xiang. Did she feel the same way when she looked at her? She hated iron for not becoming steel. Her cultivation was obviously very high, so why was she being bullied? They might have some restrictions on themselves because of this and that. At this moment, Bai suddenly had a feeling of sympathy for the snake demon. And the big monk was even more unpleasant to the eye. Bai flashed out and slapped the big monk on the back, sending him flying. Chu Xiang quickly caught up. Before the big monk could see clearly who did it, the big monk fainted. This time, they didn't restrain their demon aura. The snake demon looked at them in surprise. Two ladies, aren't you the one just now? Are you fox demons? Bai glanced at him. This monk will definitely not let it go. Why are you entangled with him? Anyway, you can't stay in this bamboo forest. It's better to end the battle quickly and leave. The snake demon looked at the fainted big monk inside. I have been in this cluster for 3 years. I wanted to try to convince him to let me stay, but he didn't seem to believe that I had no evil intentions. The snake demon cupped his hands. Thank you, seniors, for your help. My name is Baiyu. May I know where seniors are going? As a demon, Chu Xiang felt that Baiyu's temper was super good. He gave people a feeling like a spring breeze. He didn't seem like a snake demon, but more like a tree demon. She walked to Bai and asked, "Where are you going? Are you willing to go with us?" Bai was confused. Why do we have to go together? Chu Xiang shrugged. Because you don't understand the rules of the world. But Baiyu does. If we go together, it's best for him to tell you. Bai still didn't understand. Then can't you just tell me? How could Chu Xiang be willing to answer 100,000 questions? She blinked. I don't understand either. What I know is told by Yufeng. I don't know as much as Baiyu. Baiyu, are you coming with us? We're going to the capital to accompany Baiyi's benefactor for the exam. When Baiyu saw Baiyi and heard that Zhuang Yulong was Baiyi's benefactor, he immediately connected the previous deduction. He was enlightened. No wonder that young master's fate changed so much. So his benefactor is senior. With your help, he can gain both fame and fortune. The intuition of a demon was always very accurate. Although it was Baiyu's first time meeting them, he didn't know why he felt that he should go with them. Once this thought popped up, he didn't look into it. He just followed his intuition. Since seniors invited me, then this one will respectfully accept. This one will go with you to the capital. Chu Xiang patted Baiyi and smiled. How about we let him go with us as the immortal doctor? Zhuang Lushi will definitely be respectful and won't dare to be impudent. The journey will be peaceful. Baiyi thought about the scene and found it funny. Alright, that's great. Every time I hear her nagging, I'm annoyed to death. Then Baiyu, get a carriage and go with us. Remember to talk to that woman more. Don't let her pester me. Yes, senior. Baiyu's temper was good. He didn't ask why and directly agreed. Of course, it was best to meet by chance. So Chu Xiang and Baiyi went back first and pretended to go to the outhouse. Then they transmitted their voice to Li Yufeng and told him what happened. They drove 2 carriages and met Baiyu by chance at the intersection of the next town. Zhuang Lushi was indeed the most excited one. When she heard that Baiyu was going to the capital, she immediately asked him to go with them. She hoped that she could ask him about fate on the way. So the group entering the capital had one more person. Chapter 189. In the demon world, the strong were respected. On the way to the capital, Baiyu treated Chu Xiang and Baiyi as seniors. Naturally, he had to take good care of them. Chu Xiang was obviously stronger than Baiyi, so Baiyu found Chu Xiang first and asked if there was anything he needed him to do. Chu Xiang was about to refuse when she suddenly thought of something. She looked at Baiyu carefully. Li Yufeng tilted his head and said, "What are you looking at? I'm better looking than him." Baiyu silently took 2 steps back. As a snake demon, he was still a little scared when facing a powerful demon hunter. Chu Xiang pushed Li Yufeng away and said, "Don't make trouble. Catch a pheasant and roast it." She looked at Baiyu and smiled. "What about you? I have something to tell you." My sister needs someone to take care of her. If you can take good care of her, I will give you the best quality pills. How about it? The best quality pills could only be found by chance. Even if you had good medicinal materials, you might not be able to find a good alchemist. Bai Yu was good at medicine, but he couldn't refine the best quality pills. He was naturally happy and bowed. Thank you, senior. I will do my best. Chu Xiang had Li Yufeng to take care of her. She didn't need Bai Yu to intervene. Bai Yu saw this and was a little confused. Why did Bai Yi need him to take care of her? Weren't all demons free? Soon he knew why Chu Xiang gave him such a task. Bai Yi needed him to take care of too many things. For example, when he found Zhuang Lushi reprimanding Bai Yi behind everyone's back, he pretended to inadvertently go around and looked at Zhuang Lushi with slight surprise. Zhuang Lushi didn't want the fairy doctor to think she was rude and unreasonable, so she immediately smiled. After a few times, Zhuang Lushi didn't dare to embarrass Bai Yi in front of or behind people. She was afraid that the fairy doctor would see her and look down on her and her son. This was a big figure she couldn't afford to offend. For example, when eating, Bai Yi, a weak woman, couldn't often catch wild animals. The Zhuang mother and son couldn't often accept gifts from Li Yufeng. At this time, Bai Yi would roast a few sweet potatoes and mix them with wild vegetables as a meal. When Bai Yu saw them, he called Li Yufeng and Zhuang Yulong to go hunting together. They often hunted enough wild hares or pheasants. They even hunted wild boars. As soon as he suggested that the three men go to the river to clean up the wild animals, Zhuang Yulong naturally couldn't refuse. So in the end they only brought back processed meat. All Bai Yi needs is a roast. Bai Yu praised Zhuang Liushi's good roasting, and Zhuang Lushi was overjoyed. She took the initiative to take over the roasting of the meat and sweet potatoes. Bai Yi intervened. She thought that Bai Yi was stealing the credit, so she didn't let Bai Yi get involved. With Bai Yi's days were obviously better. She suddenly felt much more relaxed. This made her very absent-minded. Had she been so tired before? Comparisons were always too direct, and a strong contrast made it easier for people to see the problem. But now, an ordinary person, a monster hunter, and a monster hunter were all together. When Bai Yi looked at them, she felt as though the radiance around Zhuang Yulong had dimmed. She had to admit that he was not as good as she had imagined. And she didn't know why, but ever since Bai Yi told his fortune, he was no longer so sweet to her. He seemed to be avoiding her. Bai Yi liked to be straightforward and couldn't stand guessing. When Zhuang Lushi was not around, she went to ask, "Brother Zhuang, have you not been feeling well these days?" Zhuang Yulong lowered his eyes and half turned his body. "No, thank you for your concern, Miss Bai." Bai Yi was a little unhappy. "Brother Zhuang, do you need to be so polite with me? What's wrong with you these days? Why are you avoiding me? Why are you suddenly hot and cold towards me?" Zhuang Yulong hurriedly looked around and whispered, "Miss Bai, the walls have ears. Don't ruin your reputation. Don't think too much. I just want to focus on the imperial exam. Don't cause trouble." Bai Yi was somewhat convinced, but also somewhat unconvinced. "You feel inconvenient because there are others around?" "Of course. I'll go back first. Before our status is confirmed, we shouldn't let others misunderstand. Otherwise, bad words will spread." Zhuang Yulong's heart was in a mess. He casually said a few words and went back. Bai Yu walked out from behind the tree and asked Bai Yi in confusion, "Senior, what are you worried about?" Bai Yi frowned and sighed. "I don't know. It's like I'm worried about gains and losses. I can't be happy. Maybe it's because Brother Zhuang and I can't be together in a legitimate way." Bai Yu wondered, why can't it be legitimate? As long as he is willing and his mother agrees, you can get engaged first. Even if you want to get married after the exam, you can get engaged first. Engaged? It was the first time Bai Yi knew about this process. Gao Xian said, "Yes, we can get engaged first. But his mother doesn't like me. Will she object? Does the engagement have to be approved by the parents?" "Yes, the so-called parents' order and the matchmaker's words are indispensable." Bai Yu thoughtfully said, "I can help you with this." "How?" Bai Yi couldn't think of any way. She felt that Bai Yu knew a lot. Her eyes were full of expectations. Bai Yu smiled. "Have you forgotten what I do?" Since Zhuang Lushi believes in my words, I can naturally let her agree to let you marry into the family. A fortune teller was a living immortal in the eyes of the people. The living immortal Bai Yi was Zhuang Yulong's good match, so Zhuang Lushi naturally believed it. But she still couldn't understand. Immortal doctor, you Bai Yi and my son are a match? How is this possible? She is an orphan with no relatives or friends. How can she help Yulong? Bai Yu calmly said. The divination shows that Miss Bai brings fortune to her husband, and she brings fortune to you and your son. If young Master Zhuang and Miss Bai get married, the Zhuang family will be rich and auspicious in the future. Really? Zhuang Lushi looked at Bai Yi in disbelief. Her heart was full of confusion. This orphan girl brings fortune to her husband? Then she was wrong to want to drive her away? Zhuang Yulong was really relieved. His complicated heart calmed down, and he showed a sincere smile. He finally didn't have to be in a dilemma. It turned out that his virtuous wife was Bai Yi. In this way he could get what he wanted. He didn't even have the strength to convince his mother. Zhuang Yulong smiled at Zhuang Lushi and said, Mother, Miss Bai is kind. If you agree, after we arrive in the capital, your son wants to be engaged to her. After I finish high school, we will have a wedding. What do you think? Zhuang Lushi looked at him blankly, and then looked at Bai Yu. Immortal doctor, she really brings fortune to my husband? She can make my son the prime minister? Really? Exactly. Bai Yu nodded affirmatively. He didn't lie. With Bai Yi's ability, if she wholeheartedly assisted Zhuang Yulong, it would not be difficult for him to become the prime minister. Not to mention they would help. He didn't feel guilty at all. Zhuang Yulong couldn't wait to ask Zhuang Lushi, Mother, do you agree? Zhuang Lushi nodded gently. Of course I agree, of course I agree. Her mind was blank. She regarded Bai Yi as a vixen who led her son astray. She was full of rejection. But now this vixen was her son's benefactor. Of course, she had to accept it. She couldn't have other thoughts. Zhuang Yulong had no scruples. He ran to Bai Yi and said with a happy smile, Miss Bai, my mother finally agreed to our matter. As soon as we arrive in the capital, we will be engaged, okay? Bai Yi nodded and said, You avoided arousing suspicion before because your mother didn't agree? Of course. Bai Yi smiled, but there was a trace of doubt in her heart. If it was only because of this, then why did he avoid arousing suspicion when only the two of them were together in private? Who was he trying to avoid arousing suspicion for? Chu Xiang and Li Yufeng looked like they were going on an excursion and watching a play. Li Yufeng quietly asked Chu Xiang, Is this okay? It's very good. How can you mature without tossing around? It's just an engagement. You haven't married yet. After you get married, you can divorce. Don't have children. Li Yufeng looked at her and said, You seem to care more about having children. Of course, the fetters of blood, the fetters brought to this world after 10 months of pregnancy. It's something that can't be cut off forever. You can't have this fetters. Otherwise, how can you be happy once you separate? Chu Xiang had never given birth to a child. Because of this, she could transmigrate forever, but her child couldn't. She didn't want that kind of separation, so she simply didn't experience any maternal love. Now that she was free and unrestrained, how good was that? This was the life she wanted. A few days later, they entered the capital. They first scattered to find a house. Of course, the Zhuang family's mother and son ran into a wall everywhere. The rent of a house in the capital was expensive. It was too difficult to live in a comfortable place. If they went to a big courtyard, how could they study quietly? Just when they were worried, Chu Xiang went shopping and ran into Bai Yi. When she heard that they hadn't found a place to live, she immediately rented a courtyard. If they wanted, they could rent it together, so the rent was not expensive. Chu Xiang came forward to find Bai Yi, which was exactly what she said about the Zhuang family. Zhuang Lushi couldn't help but believe it. Thinking that Chu Xiang and Li Yufeng's clothes were very high-end, she tried her best to persuade Zhuang Yulong to cooperate with them. Zhuang Yulong had some pride and was not willing to be helped easily, but his mother and Bai Yi both wanted to rent a house together, so he had to agree. Fortunately, Li Yufeng always made him feel very comfortable when he got along with him. There was no discomfort. In order to live in line with his identity, Bai Yu didn't rent a house with them, but he bought a house not far from them. He didn't come out on weekdays, so Zhuang Lushi didn't know he was nearby. After everyone settled down, Zhuang Lushi first mentioned the engagement, which made Bai Yi very surprised. She privately said to Chu Xiang, "If I knew that fortune-telling could get her engaged, I would have gotten a fortune-teller and her a long time ago." Chu Xiang laughed and said, "She doesn't believe in fortune-telling. She believes in the immortal doctor, who has been famous for 3 years. You should really thank Bai Yu. He has no relatives or friends, but he has helped you a lot. Aren't you the most grateful?" Yes, I'll go and thank him and treat him to delicious food." Bai Yi happily ran out to hunt. She had been in the Zhuang family for so long. In order to let Zhuang Yulong eat well, her cooking skills improved rapidly. The dishes she made were very delicious. She hunted 2 rabbits and took them to Bai Yu's house. She personally made a sumptuous meal for Bai Yu. Bai Yu smiled. "Senior, you don't have to do this. That day in the bamboo forest, you helped me out. Some things are not worth mentioning. No matter what, you helped me, so I have to thank you. Eat quickly and try the taste. It's much better than those roasted on the road." Bai Yi was in a good mood. She was happy to see everything. The dishes she made were better than usual. Bai Yu tasted it and nodded. "It's really delicious. Thank you, senior." Bai Yi waved her hand. "Don't call me senior. Xiang, and I have cultivated for a few hundred years more than you. You can just call us by our names. We will call you by your name. It's more comfortable this way." "Okay, Bai Yi, do you want to stay for dinner?" "No, Brother Zhuang and his mother will be back soon. I'll go back and cook for them." Bai Yi wanted to say something but stopped. He hesitated for a moment and stood up. Bai Yi saw this and said, "What do you want? What are you hesitating for?" Bai Yu hesitated again and said, "I've said before that fate will change. You are a human and a demon. There are many variables. You may not really have a happy life. I've been in the human world for many years. Before I did good in the bamboo forest, I went to many other places and saw many people and things. There is a saying among the people, the most unfaithful person is a scholar. I don't know if you've heard it. Your marriage was facilitated by me. If something happens in the future, what can happen? Don't say such unlucky words." Bai Yi hurriedly interrupted him. "Why are you and Xiang afraid that he will be unfaithful? Was Chu Xiang also like this? That's it. I don't want anything more. I just hope that you are more cautious. People's hearts are unpredictable, especially after they have changed from poverty to wealth. Don't be deceived." Bai Yi didn't like to hear these words, but Bai Yu kindly reminded her. She nodded and then quickly left Bai Yu's house. When she went back to cook, these words came out again and kept circling in her mind. She couldn't ignore them even if she wanted to. She had a rebellious thought. Why didn't everyone think highly of them? Did she and her benefactor not have a good life? But then her rational side came out again. They obviously knew more than her and gave her advice for her own good. As the saying goes, the onlookers see more clearly than the players involved. Could it be that they were really a pair that was not favored? If one day Zhuang Yulong knew that she was a demon, would there be a huge conflict between them? If Zhuang Yulong knew that she was a demon, would he still be willing to have children with her? What would happen to their children? Would they be rejected by both the human and demon world? Bai Yi had never thought about this before. She began to think about it now. She couldn't sleep at night. Because no matter what the situation was, once the fact that she was a demon was exposed, it was unlikely that there would be a good result. She also thought of that big monk. He didn't distinguish between right and wrong. He didn't listen to other people's explanations. He stubbornly convicted Bai Yu and then attacked her. If Zhuang Yulong attacked her like this, she felt pain just thinking about it. Zhuang Lushi bought the things for the engagement very quickly. Bai Yi was now a lucky doll for her. She couldn't wait to marry her home as soon as possible. Anyway, they didn't have much money. Everything was simple. Bai Yi didn't have any objections. She just took it as a big bargain and simply arranged a marriage for the two of them. Chu Xiang dressed Bai Yi up carefully that day. In front of the dressing table before going out, she held Chu Xiang's hand tightly. She looked at her in the mirror and nervously said, Xiang, am I really going to be engaged to Zhuang Dage? Chu Xiang smiled and looked down at her. She helped her tidy up her hairpin. Really, don't be afraid. It's just an engagement. We haven't married yet. We're all here. What are you afraid of? Bai nodded. Yes, what am I afraid of? I shouldn't be afraid of anything. Chu Xiang bent down and looked at her. It doesn't matter if you're afraid. If you know how to be afraid, you know how to protect yourself. If you know how to think, you won't ignore it. Don't worry. It doesn't matter what happens. Bai Yi suddenly felt that the most fortunate thing for her was not that Zhuang Yulong saved her life, but that she had Chu Xiang as her protector. Chu Xiang raised her hand to wipe away the tears in her eyes. She joked. You're not going to get on the sedan. Why are you thinking so much? Go quickly. Your benefactor will think that you're going back on your word. I'm not going back on my word. Bai Yi smiled through her tears. She didn't know why she was crying. She was very hesitant. She didn't know if she should take this step. This was clearly what she had been looking forward to. It was something she had been very happy about. But with Chu Xiang by her side, she held Chu Xiang's hand. All the hesitation and uneasiness dissipated. There was nothing to be afraid of. Chu Xiang had always been by her side. At most, she would be sad like those seniors. There was nothing to talk about. Bai Yi and Zhuang Yulong exchanged invitations under the guidance of the matchmaker and successfully got engaged. From now on, Bai Yi was Zhuang Yulong's wife. She had a name and there was no need to worry about gossip. Although she never cared about those things, at this moment, she felt a little affirmed and accepted by the Zhuang family. Bai Yi stood behind Chu Xiang and transmitted her voice. I advised her, but she cares about Zhuang Yulong very much. She is still willing to get engaged with Zhuang Yulong. And it doesn't matter. Chu Xiang smiled faintly and looked at the pair of newlyweds who were smiling at each other. Li Yufeng and Bai Yi both understood what Chu Xiang meant by, it doesn't matter. Bai Yi's thoughts had changed. But how could she know if there was a possibility of happiness without trying? She could try as much as she wanted. The three of them were still here. Naturally, there would not be any unacceptable results. Li Yufeng said softly. Fortunately, Bai Yi is not a man. Otherwise, I would not be able to keep my position. Chu Xiang smiled and said, You are even jealous of my sister. Why don't you just open a shop and sell vinegar? I don't want to do anything. I just want to accompany you. If I open a shop, who will play with you? I heard that the vegetarian food in the temple in the west is very delicious. Let's go try it? Okay. Bai Yu silently took a step back. She was very tactful and did not participate. They didn't know what would happen in the future. She hoped that everything would be fine. Chapter 190. Chu Xiang and Li Yufeng didn't go to the temple to have fun, but to explore the situation. They had just arrived and there were 3 demons in their group. Of course, they had to find out the strength of the scattered Taoists before they could be at ease. Li Yufeng was a human, so he could go anywhere. Chu Xiang was a 10,000-year-old demonic cultivator, so she knew countless things. Now that she had a cultivation level, it was easy for her to hide her demon aura. The two of them pretended to be husband and wife and prayed for blessings. In just a few days, they went to the surrounding temples. There were 4 eminent monks near the capital that caught Chu Xiang's attention. They were in charge of the 4 temples to solve the problems of the demons in the capital. There were 2 Taoists of the same level as them. They were fellow disciples and were in charge of the famous Qingfeng temple. They were usually sage-like and favored by the emperor. They often entered the palace to discuss Taoism with the emperor, and even refined pills for the emperor. There were many disciples of the 6 Rao disciples. They often walked around the capital like they were patrolling to see if there were any abnormalities. Some of them were kind and wanted to help the 6 Rao disciples. There were also those who wanted to profit from it. There were also those who used it to harm others for their own benefit. These had nothing to do with Chu Xiang. She only needed to be sure that there was no one here who could make her vigilant. When she was bored in the courtyard, Chu Xiang suddenly had an idea. She said to Li Yufeng. Let's open a shop? Aren't you a demon hunter? How about we help people exorcise ghosts, catch demons, and solve problems? Let's do something interesting. Li Yufeng paused in the middle of making tea. He lowered his eyes and smiled. Why did you think of this? Are you bored? Chu Xiang leaned on the table and looked at the birds flying on the branches outside the window. Yes, I thought I would encounter many interesting things when I went down the mountain. In the end, I didn't see many demons. TSK, those demons ran away when they saw me. Am I that scary? If I had known, I wouldn't have taken revenge so early. At least I could have left some opponents to fight. Ha, what kind of opponents are they? Li Yufeng laughed. He put the tea in front of Chu Xiang and smoothed her hair. Okay, if you want to open a shop, then open one. I'll be your errand boy. Chu Xiang kissed him on the cheek with satisfaction and discussed the details of opening the shop with him. She was very good at this. She had opened countless shops in modern times, ancient times, and various worlds. She was very familiar with it. On the other hand, Li Yufeng understood the methods of demon catchers, Taoist priests, and monks to respond to the requests of those supernatural beings. Therefore, he gave Chu Xiang a lot of suggestions. The two of them immediately went to the best location in the capital to buy a shop and asked someone to take care of it. These trivial matters were all arranged by Li Yufeng. Chu Xiang didn't ask about it. When she saw it, even the signboard of the shop was hung. It was called Chuji Tea House. Chu Xiang contacted several suppliers to supply various grades of tea in the tea house. There were 3 floors in the tea house. The first floor was for gambling and consumption, the second floor was for gambling and high consumption, and the third floor was for receiving VIPs. The tea brewers were all experts, and the tea they brewed was absolutely delicious. As for the supernatural beings, as long as Kuru ordered a cup of Chuji Tea House tea, the second floor would ask Kuru about the request and ask Chu Xiang and Li Yufeng for help. Money could make the devil turn millstones. Chu Xiang and Li Yufeng had plenty of money. It didn't take long for Chuji Tea House to be ready to open. At first, Zhuang Lushi didn't care when she saw them going out. Later, she found out from their conversation that they were preparing to open a shop. The shock in her heart was indescribable, because the capital was a dreamlike place to her. She had been in the capital for so many years and still couldn't believe that Chu Xiang and Li Yufeng were actually going to open a shop. One had to know that every inch of land in the capital was worth an inch of gold. How much would it cost to open a 3-story tea house in the best location? Chu Xiang and Li Yufeng's position in Zhuang Liushi's heart rose again, to a height that she couldn't reach. Even her words became hesitant. After holding back for a long time, she asked tentatively, Young Master Li, are you really going to open a tea house? Then, do you think the tea house is still short of people? I can do anything. Even if I don't know how to do it, I can learn. Can you give me a job to do? Zhuang Yulong and Bai Yi came back from shopping. When he heard Zhuang Liushi's words, he couldn't keep his face. He forced a smile and walked over. Mother, what are you talking about? You've never done anything in a tea house before. Don't make trouble for Brother Li. Brother Li, I'm really sorry. Li Yufeng waved his hand and smiled. Brother Zhuang is too serious. What trouble? But Auntie, I really don't care about this matter. This is my wife's tea house. I'm just doing her a favor. Zhuang Lushi was stunned. What? Chu Xiang opened it? Li Yufeng nodded. Yes, the money used to open the tea house is my wife's dowry. It has nothing to do with me. Therefore, the tea house is my wife's private property. It's not good for me to ask. It's just that I'm afraid that she'll work hard, so I go and take a look when I have nothing to do. Zhuang Yulong smiled and said, So that's how it is. I see. The tea house can't be opened by Brother Li. Brother Li still has to go down and make a reference. How can he open a tea house? It turns out that it's sister-in-law's private property. Zhuang Lushi swallowed her saliva. For the first time, she realized that Chu Xiang was not an orphan like Bai Yi, but a golden Wawa with a huge dowry. She subconsciously looked at Bai Yi, and the disgust in her heart couldn't be suppressed. She kept thinking that this was her son's benefactor, who could help her son become a marquis. Only then did she suppress her unwillingness and said with a smile, Then I'll wait for Chu Xiang. Oh no. I'll wait for Mrs. Li to come back and ask her. You also know that our family came to the capital. There are still some days before the exam. We have to find something to do. Li Yufeng nodded his head. He still had to study, so he went back to his room. Zhuang Yulong pulled Zhuang Lushi into the room and said with displeasure, Mother, what are you doing? How can I get along with Brother Li in the future? Zhuang Lushi sighed and said, Do you think I'm not ashamed? Our two families live under the same roof. We see each other all the time, but the gap is so big. But I can't help it. We can't just sit and eat. Bai Yi's money is almost used up. What can we do? I've been looking for someone to work for me these days. Didn't Bai Yi also not find her? She wanted to complain that Bai Yi didn't look for her at all, but seeing that Bai Yi was a noble, she suppressed her words. Bai Yi saw that Zhuang Lushi was dissatisfied with her, but she didn't understand why. She stepped forward and smiled at Zhuang Yulong. Zhuang Dage Xiang, and I are like sisters. How about I open a tea house with her? Bai Yi and Chu Xiang opened a tea house together. It was a straightforward meaning of open a tea house together. But in Zhuang Yulong's ears, he felt that she was born in a low family and didn't know how to talk. She didn't have any money. Why should she open a tea house with Chu Xiang? She was an orphan girl who didn't know how to do business, and didn't know how to manage a business. How could she be with Chu Xiang? If she went, wouldn't she just help pour tea and water for Chu Xiang? If his mother and future wife went to work in Li Yufeng's wife's tea house, how could he raise his head in front of Li Yufeng? Li Yufeng was either rich or noble. He was not from the same world as him. The reason why he could get along with Li Yufeng was because Bai Yu asserted that he could be the prime minister. Since he was the future prime minister and Li Yufeng was going to take the imperial exam, he naturally had the confidence to face Li Yufeng, who might be his subordinate. But if his family went to work in a tea house, it was different. That tea house was the private property of Li Yufeng's wife. How could he be inferior? He had no face. Bai Yi saw that Zhuang Yulong was unhappy, so she pulled him and asked, Zhuang Dage, what's wrong with you? How could Zhuang Yulong? He got up and said, In short, you are not allowed to go. I'm going to study. Zhuang Yulong shook his sleeves and went back to his room, leaving Bai Yi and Zhuang Lushi looking at each other. Zhuang Lushi was very biased. She didn't feel that her son was unreasonable. She just felt that Bai Yi didn't have the ability to make her son happy. She couldn't help but mutter, Li Gongzi is really lucky. Chu Xiang actually brought such a large dowry to marry him. She is really his benefactor. Zhuang Lushi glanced at Bai Yi and also went back to her room. Bai Yi felt that there was a lot of content in that glance. It was not a good intention. She frowned and was not very happy. She picked up the snow-white fox and went out. She turned the corner and went to Bai Yu's house. Bai Yu and Chu Xiang were sitting in the bamboo forest and playing chess. Li Yufeng, who had just pretended to study, was also there. He sat next to Chu Xiang and watched the game. Chu Xiang saw Bai Yi coming and waved at her. Yi, come here. We are waiting for you. These days you often go out with that scholar. Did you have fun? Bai Yi sighed and sat on the other side of Chu Xiang. Chu Xiang turned to look at her. What's wrong? Are you not happy? Bai Yi held the white fox and rested her chin on her hand. Why do humans always have so many ideas? They are still keeping it in their hearts. If people want to guess, how can I guess? It's so annoying. Chu Xiang put down a piece on the chessboard and shook her head. It's not just humans who have complicated thoughts. Any living creature is like this when they get together. It's just that there are fewer Yao like us, and we don't like to be with other Yao. Li Yufeng held a folding fan in his hand and gently fanned it, smiling. This time I know a little. Just now, Zhuang Lushi asked me if I could give her a job in the tea house. I think she always looks down on you, so I told her that you open the tea house with your own dowry. Before I came, she wanted to wait for you to go back and ask you. Bai Yu said, I see. If I guess correctly, the mother and son of the Zhuang family must be unhappy. Bai Yi said in surprise. How do you know? That's right, both of them are unhappy. When they were outside, Brother Zhuang was very happy, but when he came home, why? Bai Yu, do you know? Bai Yu looked at the chessboard and put down the piece in his hand. He cupped his hands to Chu Xiang and said with a smile, I lost. Sister Xiang is good at chess. Chu Xiang waved her hand and took a sip of the tea Li Yufeng handed over. Bai Yu turned to Bai Yi and replied, I guess that tea house made Zhuang Yulong feel inferior, and made him realize that there is a big gap between him and brother Li and sister Xiang. He is very uncomfortable. After all, he and brother Li are equals. And his mother is even easier to guess. She has always disliked you. Now that she saw that sister Xiang has a lot of dowry and you are about to use up all your money, she is naturally very dissatisfied. Bai Yi frowned and hugged the white fox tightly. If it weren't for me, they would have had a harder time. I have already taken out a lot of money and taken over the family's work, making it much easier for them. Why are they still not satisfied? Chu Xiang chuckled. A man who is never content is like a snake trying to swallow an elephant. You just happen to meet two people who don't know how to be grateful and satisfied. However, isn't it very simple to make them happy now? Give them whatever they want. It's not like you don't have a cherry. Bai Yi snorted. That's right. Don't you just want to be rich? I can also open a shop. Chapter 191. Bai Yi asked Chu Xiang about some things that needed to be prepared to open a shop, and then ran out to find a shop. Bai Yi looked outside with some worry. Can she do it alone? Chu Xiang shrugged and said, You have to try everything alone to know if it works or not. Bai Yi rubbed the chess piece beside his hand and hesitated. But Bai Yi has never been in contact with so many people. If she gives herself away and people find out she is a demon. Chu Xiang looked up at him and smiled. Then why don't you keep an eye on her? Remember to change your appearance. Don't be picked on by the mother and son of the Zhuang family. Okay, then I'll go take a look. Bai Yu immediately stood up upon receiving the order. With a shake of her body, she transformed into the appearance of a servant girl, and looked at Chu Xiang with a questioning gaze. Chu Xiang clapped her hands in satisfaction. Bai Yu, you are really smart. You can always understand what I mean. Go, act according to your heart. Yes. Bai Yu bowed and his voice turned into a woman's voice. He quickly chased after Bai Yi. Li Yufeng waved his hand, and the chess pieces on the table returned to their original places. He cleaned them up and asked in confusion, Why did you let Bai Yi open a shop? Isn't it good to let her put her mind on other things? It's better than putting it on a man. As a man, Li Yufeng rubbed his nose and smiled. She met a bad person. Not all men are like this. It's not that she met a bad person. In fact, that Zhuang Yulong has never done anything bad to her. He even saved her life. It's no wonder she is so persistent. Of course it's not her fault. There are many women in the world who are more foolish than her. She just hasn't seen it clearly. When she sees that Zhuang Yulong is not someone she can trust, you see if she will still be so persistent. Chu Xiang got up and stretched. She sat on the swing under the tree and smiled. Zhuang Yulong is Yi's benefactor. Yi is here to repay the favor. She can't be too good to Zhuang Yulong. Otherwise she can't cultivate with this karma. Let her treat Zhuang Yulong better. You want her to give up earlier? Li Yufeng walked behind her and gently pushed her. He sighed. That day when Bai Yi was sad, I saw that you would definitely not let Zhuang Yu go. But Zhuang Yulang was indeed Bai Yi's benefactor. He had saved Bai Yi's life. This was a great kindness. If you attack him, you will be tainted by karma. Chu Xiang laughed out loud. Why would I do anything to him? I won't. Don't worry. Li Yufeng did not feel relieved. Chu Xiang was extremely protective. Would she let Zhuang Yulong go? How could this be? However, he saw that Chu Xiang didn't have any intention to do so, so he didn't ask anymore. He just silently calculated in his heart. With his current status, he couldn't help Chu Xiang much. He had to think of a way. He looked in the direction of the imperial palace and fell silent. The scene of Zhongshan being chased appeared in his mind. He never thought that he would come to the capital again, and in such a short period of time at that. However, with her by his side, it didn't matter where he went. He pushed Chu Xiang on the swing, curled his lips, and looked at Chu Xiang with an unprecedented gentleness. Bai Yi wanted to open a shop. The mother and son of the Zhuang family were shocked. Zhuang Lushi was dissatisfied that Bai Yi had concealed her wealth. She suspected that she still had a lot of money. At the same time, she wondered where she came from to have so much money. Bai Yi made up a set of stories according to Bai Yu's teachings and successfully deceived their doubts. Opening a shop was always a happy matter. Zhuang Lushi and Zhuang Yulang's mood was obviously better. Zhuang Lushi followed Bai Yi and helped blindly, adding a lot of trouble to Bai Yi. Bai Yi was an amateur at the stage of exploration. She felt that Zhuang Lushi was very annoying. She mentioned to Zhuang Yulang that Zhuang Lushi should take care of him at home and not help him anymore. Zhuang Yulang couldn't express his opinion between Bai Yi and his mother. His mother had worked hard for most of her life, so he asked Bai Yi to be more tolerant. Bai Yi was very disappointed and annoyed. Fortunately, Bai Yi was by her side to help her. Bai Yi had lived in the human world for many years. He could help Bai Yi almost everywhere. Bai Yi was very grateful to him and became closer to him. While they were still preparing, the Chuji tea house opened. On the day of the grand opening, Chu Xiang invited all of them over. She even invited them to perform dragon and lion dances and set off firecrackers. The grand opening was grand and high profile, and everyone was given a free cup of tea. It attracted so many people that they almost blocked an entire street. It was the first time that Bai Yi had seen such a lively scene. She followed Chu Xiang and smiled. She said excitedly, "Sister, when my shop opens, it will be so lively." Chu Xiang smiled and said, "Okay, you have to do a good job when you open a shop. Don't fool people casually." "Of course, I will do a good job. There is also Bai Yu to help me. There will be no mistakes." Bai Yi was very confident. Powerful monsters rarely lacked confidence. If they couldn't do it well, they could start again. There would be a day when they could do it well. If she didn't have this belief, how could she have cultivated to such a high level? Zhuang Lushi and Zhuang Yulang were on the second floor of the tea house. They stood by the window and looked at the lively scene outside. They felt a little embarrassed. Zhuang Lushi looked at Bai Yi, who was laughing with Chu Xiang, and said, "That Bai Yi. She must be from a big family. Look at her. Since she came to the capital, she has not been uncomfortable. It's as if she should be in such a prosperous place. There are so many people outside. There are many officials and nobles, right? She is not afraid at all. Gao Xian is very happy. Yushi. Mother, no matter what her background is, we are family now. Don't say this anymore. She has no family. Her background is not important. Yi is a lucky star and our benefactor. You should treat her better." Zhuang Yulang could always feel the estrangement between the two women. This made him very tired. He could only persuade both sides to give in. Zhuang Lushi reluctantly nodded. Then she remembered that Bai Yi's shop was about to open. She smiled and said, "Our family is going to have a shop. I really didn't even dream about it. You are right. Bai Yi is a lucky star. She is a member of our family." Rich families emphasized that they did not touch the dowry of their women. Zhuang Lushi, a low-level commoner, did not have this idea. The wealth of a family should be managed by the head of the family. Wasn't she the head of the family? How could a daughter-in-law handle the dowry herself? These were all their Zhuang families. Zhuang Lushi was thinking about beautiful things. Zhuang Yulang did not feel that there was anything wrong with it. After all, the people he came into contact with lived like this. No one had taught him anything else. The best location in the capital had always attracted people's attention. Suddenly, a foreigner came and opened a tea house in such a high-profile manner. Naturally, it attracted people from all sides to investigate. Chu Xiang's tea house was very popular. Her tea was really good. There were books and funny things in the tea house, which brought people unprecedented enjoyment. Naturally, it could also keep returning customers. Gradually, the officials and nobles in the capital liked to come here. They regarded it as a place to relax. They could also go to the box on the third floor to talk about things. The privacy was very good, which was very satisfactory. Bai Yi opened a pharmacy and also helped people to see patients. This was Bai Yu's specialty. Bai Yi also treated people. It was not difficult to do it. Treating patients was also a good deed. It was a good thing. Chu Xiang did not care much and let them do it themselves. Zhuang Lushi was not very satisfied because she did not know anything about medicinal herbs. She did not understand how to calculate accounts. She could not get involved at all. But Bai Yi's family was a medical family. She only knew how to do this. The money was earned back. What else could Zhuang Lushi do? Even if she was dissatisfied, she had to hold it in. No one cared. Anyway, it was obvious that their life was better. They dressed well and went out with confidence. Zhuang Yulong began to participate in the poetry and tea parties of the capital's students. Sometimes, the tea party would be held in Chu Xiang's tea house. He went in and out of Chu Xiang's tea house not as cramped as before. Instead, he felt proud. Chu Xiang felt funny every time she saw it. The money was earned by Bai Yi. Where did Zhuang Yulong's confidence come from? This was also in ancient times. Even if Zhuang Yulong did not know how to make money, he would feel superior after being admitted to the imperial examination. He was indeed superior, but his literary talent was not good. Every time he participated in the tea party, he could not compare with others. Li Yufeng was much better than him. Chu Xiang also teased Li Yufeng. Why didn't you really go to the imperial examination? You might have done much better than him. Li Yufeng smiled proudly. Of course I did better than him. Back then, I almost got first place in the 3 yuan exam. Chu Xiang was surprised. Huh? You really took the imperial examination? Li Yufeng raised his eyebrows at her. Of course, don't I look like it? I really am an imperial scholar. It's just that I had something to do and didn't take the imperial examination. This time, I am qualified to take the imperial examination. Then you go take the imperial examination. It's best if you get the top scorer. Then we can open another imperial examination. Okay, if you like it, I'll take the imperial examination for you to play with. Chu Xiang had never taken the imperial examinations before, but the ones she had taken in the modern era were not as simple as this. Of course, she knew that for cultivators, having good hearing and good memory was beneficial to their studies. If they had some talents, it would not be difficult to do well in the examinations. Perhaps Li Yufeng had such talents. Since he had done it, she thought that he could do it. She said, remember to study hard. You must do better than Zhuang Yulong. Yes. Li Yufeng agreed. He found a pile of books and read them one by one in the tea house. Occasionally he would write an essay. After all, things like catching ghosts and subduing demons were rare. Even if people encountered it, their first reaction would be to pray to the gods and Buddha. They would not come to the tea house for help. This kind of thing could not be publicized. It had to be spread secretly. Therefore, Chu Xiang and Li Yufeng were not worried at all when they did not see anyone asking for help. That day, a madam who was nearly 40 years old came to the tea house. When she brought 2 maids to the private room on the 3rd floor, she happened to meet Chu Xiang, who was about to go down. Chu Xiang glanced at her and stopped. Madam, your glabella is dark, the bottom of your eyes are blue, and the ghost aura on your body is very strong. It seems that you are being haunted by evil spirits. In 3 days there will be a bloody disaster. The maid next to her shouted. What nonsense are you talking about? The madam raised her hand to stop the maid from going down. She looked at Chu Xiang seriously and sighed. Miss, you have the face of a flower and the face of the moon. I have never seen anyone more beautiful than you. Chu Xiang smiled. Thank you for your praise. The tea house has a kind of tea called chu ji. If you have any difficulties, you can order a cup of chu ji. Someone will lead you to see me. That evil spirit is coming menacingly. Madam, please be careful. Excuse me. Chu Xiang was going to see the supplier, so she did not talk much with her. She bypassed her and went downstairs. The maid was a little dissatisfied. She felt that Chu Xiang was neglecting the madam. However, the madam thought highly of Chu Xiang and said in a low voice, Only people with strength have confidence. This girl is not an ordinary person. Let's go. The madam came to the private room of the tea house because it was private. She made an appointment with a Taoist priest to solve the abnormal situation at home. However, Chu Xiang could see that something was wrong with her at a glance, which left a deep impression on her. After meeting with the Taoist priest, She always felt that Chu Xiang's ability seemed to be higher than that Taoist priest. 3 days later, the maid who scolded Chu Xiang hurriedly ran over. As soon as she entered the tea house, she grabbed the second waiter's hand and cried, "Quickly bring me to see your lady boss. I beg you. I can pay as much as you want. Quickly." The second waiter was found by Li Yufeng. He had some skills and knew that something was wrong. He quickly brought her to Chu Xiang. Chu Xiang saw the maid with tears streaming down her face and understood. She said, "Something happened to your madam? Is it serious?" The maid nodded her head and cried, "Lady boss, this servant was insensible and offended you that day. Please don't remember this servant's mistake. I beg you to go see my madam. Your madam will definitely have a bloody disaster in 3 days." Originally, there was a Taoist priest who opened the altar and chased the ghost away. We believed him. Who knew? Who knew that there would be a sudden gust of wind? Such a tall candlestick shelf would fall on your madam. The vase on the table also suddenly fell, and fell on your madam's head. Madam bled a lot. The maid cried while gesturing. She cried until she was out of breath. It could be seen that it was really serious. At first glance, she could tell that something was wrong. She was terrified, and her whole body was trembling. Li Yufeng walked over and asked Chu Xiang, "Do you want to go and see?" "Of course." Chu Xiang stood up and patted the maid's shoulder. A wave of spiritual power entered the maid's body. Her complexion was much better. "Let's go. Lead the way. Your husband can't be too warm." "Right, send someone to Zhuangji drugstore to invite a doctor. Their medical skills are very good." Yes, I will immediately send someone." The maid didn't come out by herself. She immediately ordered someone to go to Zhuangji drugstore to invite a doctor. Their madam bled so much. Of course they invited a doctor. However, since Chu Xiang named Zhuangji drugstore, they must invite a doctor. Zhuangji drugstore was opened by Bai Yi. At that time, Bai Yi wanted to call it Bai Ji drugstore. She thought of the name of Chu Xiang's tea house. However, Zhuang Lushi didn't like it. They were a family, so they should call it Zhuangji drugstore. Zhuang Lushi insisted. Bai Yi didn't care. After all, it was just a shop. In the end, she called it Zhuangji drugstore. Chu Xiang and Li Yufeng went to Chen Manor, where the madam lived. At the door they met Bai Yi and Bai Yu, who had rushed over. The 4 of them followed the maid in. As soon as they entered, they felt a strong yin qi. Bai Yi looked around and transmitted her voice to them. "This evil ghost hasn't been around for long. It has done a lot of bad things and harmed a lot of people." Chu Xiang had zero interest. "Today is our first opening. Clean it up properly. It can be considered as getting rid of evil for the people." Li Yufeng rubbed his chin, and was a little speechless. "Why do I feel that you 2 demons are more righteous than me? You really have evil intentions." "Wrong." Chu Xiang smiled faintly. "We don't have evil intentions. We just find it interesting." Bai Yu smiled gently. "No matter what it is, it's a good deed. Let's go treat that madam first." When they were 4, Chen Fureo's courtyard was already full of people. The old madam of Chen Manor, the old master, Lord Chen, and the young masters and sisters of the manor were all here. They were worried and afraid. There was also a Taoist priest and a doctor. Chu Xiang waved her hand, and put a jade pendant on Bai Yi to hide her demon qi. She calmly entered the room to check on Chen Fureo's condition. Madame Chen's face was pale, and her breathing was weak. The yin qi on her body was very strong. If she didn't care about her, she wouldn't live for more than 2 days. The Taoist priest invited by the Chen family saw them and said unhappily, "Don't cause trouble." "Lord Chen," the maid hurriedly said. "Master, this is an expert invited by Madam. She can see very accurately. When we met at the tea house, the lady boss saw that Madam was haunted by evil ghosts at a glance. She also said that Madam would have a bloody disaster in 3 days. Now it has come true. Let her take a look at Madam." Oh. Lord Chen was the assistant minister of the Ministry of Rites. He usually came into contact with such things. Hearing this, he looked at Chu Xiang seriously. First, he was shocked by Chu Xiang's appearance. There were 3,000 concubines in the palace, but none of them could compare to Chu Xiang. How come he had never heard of such a woman before? Then he found that Chu Xiang was very young. She was probably only 20 years old. But her aura was incomparable and could not be underestimated. Lord Chen cupped his hands and politely said, "How should I address this expert?" Chu Xiang smiled faintly and said, "Just call me Boss Chu. I opened the Chuji Tea House. In addition to selling tea, I also help people solve some difficult and complicated diseases, just like your madam. Can I see Madam Chen?" "Of course. Boss Chu, please." Lord Chen had been in the bureaucracy for many years. He believed in his intuition that Chu Xianglai was extraordinary, so he invited Chu Xiang to his bedside. The Taoist priest's method was useless, so he naturally placed his hopes on Chu Xiang. Bai Yi followed behind Chu Xiang to the bedside. She first took medicine from the medicine box and applied it to Madam Chen. The servant girl explained to Lord Chen. Lord Chen saw that Bai Yi's movements were skillful, so he thought about it and did not stop her. The doctor next to him saw that Lord Chen did not speak, so he naturally did not stop her. While Bai Yi was treating Madam Chen, Chu Xiang held Madam Chen's hand and used her spiritual power to check her condition. The yin qi was eroding her internal organs. The situation was indeed very serious. Chu Xiang asked the servant girl to bring cinnabar and talisman paper. She waved her brush and wrote 3 talismans. She silently recited the formula and stuck them on Madam Chen's forehead, Dantian and Sol's. Lord Chen could not help but ask, "Boss Chu, this is," Li Yufeng explained. "This is to protect her from being disturbed by evil spirits and protect her heart. For the time being, her injuries will not worsen and the evil spirits will not have an opportunity to take advantage." "Oh, good. Then can this evil spirit be exorcised? Where is this evil spirit now?" Lord Chen frowned with worry. Li Yufeng held the compass in his hand and pointed to the northeast. "The evil spirit is in that direction. Lord Chen, you don't need to panic. Tell everyone in the mansion to gather here. I will follow Boss Chu to the northeast to exorcise the evil spirit." Chu Xiang nodded. "That's right. You don't need to follow me to avoid more trouble." The Taoist priest did not agree. He must go and take a look. This involved his face and reputation. Regardless of whether Chu Xiang could exorcise the evil spirit or not, he had to see what was going on. Chu Xiang did not care. If he wanted to follow, then let him follow. So Chu Xiang and Li Yufeng walked towards the northeast of the Chen mansion. The Taoist priest followed behind with the Taoist priest. The yin qi became heavier as they walked. In Chu Xiang's eyes, there was even a faint black fog condensing in the northeast. Li Yufeng whispered, "Be careful. Don't be careless every time you make a move." "I know." Chu Xiang walked over with light steps. She opened her palm and sucked in a few stones. She casually threw the stones to set up a formation, blocking the evil spirit's path. The Taoist priest frowned. "What formation is this?" Chu Xiang smiled. "I can't tell you what formation it is. Everyone has to rely on their own abilities." Suddenly, a gust of wind blew. The wind was bone-chilling and dust flew. It instantly covered the sun and swept the 4 of them into it. Just in time. Chu Xiang did not retreat. Instead, she advanced and flew directly towards the direction of the fluctuation of the ghost qi. Li Yufeng followed closely behind. The Taoist priest flicked his horsetail whisk and waited seriously. However, he found that the 2 of them rushed over without any preparation. He was very puzzled. When he walked closer, he saw Chu Xiang fighting with a cloud of black fog. He could not help but be surprised. The evil spirit has appeared? How is it possible? That day when I opened the altar, I couldn't force it out. Li Yufeng stared at the battle and said casually, "Boss Chu's magic power is profound. Naturally, she has a way to force the evil spirit to appear." The Taoist priest frowned. "Where did you come from? Why have I never heard of you?" Li Yufeng said indifferently, "Is it important where we came from? As long as we have the ability, it's enough." The Taoist priest wanted to ask more, but Chu Xiang had already thrown out a whip and firmly tied the evil spirit. Chu Xiang threw the evil spirit to Li Yufeng and clapped her hands. "Caught it. Interrogate it why it's doing evil here." The Taoist priest was shocked. He looked around and sure enough, the wind stopped and the black fog dispersed. The evil spirit that he was helpless against was dealt with so quickly by Chu Xiang. He found it hard to believe. Chu Xiang and Li Yufeng did not have the intention to continue chatting with him. They directly took the evil spirit and left. On the way back to Madame Chen's courtyard, Li Yufeng had already interrogated and found out the reason. When he entered the courtyard, he told Lord Chen the reason. This evil spirit is Madame Chen's younger sister. You should have married her back then. That way, she should be a titled madam now and have a son and a daughter. It was because Madame Chen snatched her marriage that she married the wrong person, and married a poor scholar. In the end, that person betrayed her and treated her badly. When her family was in trouble, you did not leave Madame Chen. That person took her as a concubine and harmed her child, forcing her to die. This time, she came to take revenge. She must let Madame Chen have a taste of her suffering before she will give up. Lord Chen's expression was stunned. After being stunned for a while, he shouted, "Nonsense! My marriage with my husband was arranged by my parents and arranged by a matchmaker. From the beginning to the end, the one I wanted to marry was my wife. I have never interacted with her sister." Old Madame Chen frowned and said, "That's true. Our Chen family only wanted to marry my educated and reasonable daughter-in-law. We never considered her sister. It's really an injustice. What kind of disaster is this? My daughter-in-law has helped her sister many times. This is too unreasonable." The wraith was able to hear their conversation. She instantly became abnormally excited. She had done many things to prove that her marriage had been snatched away by Madame Chen. Because of her terrifying appearance, Chu Xiang did not allow her to reveal herself. Naturally, her voice could only be heard by the few of them who had a cultivation base. Chu Xiang helped her pass on her words. After Lord Chen heard it, he felt angry and found it funny. The so-called marriage snatching was just the evil spirit's own guess. However, it was precisely because the evil spirit could not compare to Madame Chen since she was young that her jealousy had become her second nature. That was why her mind was so sensitive, and she compared herself everywhere. After a long time, she even believed in many things and hated Madame Chen more and more. She blamed all her misfortunes on Madame Chen. However, her misfortune was mostly due to her bad temperament. It had nothing to do with Madame Chen. Even the death of her and her child was due to illness. It was not because her husband deliberately neglected or persecuted them. Madame Chen really suffered an unexpected disaster this time. She suffered a lot for nothing. Now that the truth was out, no matter how the evil spirit pestered her, the evil deeds she had done were all true. Chu Xiang slammed her palm down, and the evil spirit instantly vanished into thin air, not making a single sound. She had seen the evil spirit before and understood its methods. After entering the inner room, she eliminated the yin qi on Madame Chen's body. Bai Yi treated Madame Chen with Bai Yu's help. Madame Chen finally woke up. Madame Chen only had superficial wounds. She could recover with careful care. There were no major problems. The Chen family was very grateful to them and immediately sent expensive gifts to express their gratitude. After Madame Chen heard the whole story, tears fell. She sighed and said, "I didn't think it would be her. She did marry the wrong person and was deceived by that scholar. However, if she was willing to listen to my advice, she would not have ended up like this today." When Bai Yi heard her words, she didn't know why she was flustered. Before leaving, she looked back at Madame Chen a few times and became much quieter. Li Yufeng noticed and sent a secret message to Chu Xiang. Bai Yi is much more sensible. Chu Xiang smiled. Every time she comes into contact with so many different people and things, it is hard for her not to be sensible. My younger sister is very obedient and sensible. She is just blinded by kindness. It will take some time for her to understand all these things. That is true. However, she is lucky to have you as an elder sister. That is what she exchanged for. Hundreds of years of sincere companionship can exchange for an elder sister like me. You can't be envious. Li Yufeng chuckled. Why should I be envious of her now? Let's go. Let's be neighbors and eat a good meal to celebrate. Chapter 192. There would always be people close to the Chen family who would know about Madame Chen, and people close to the Chen family servants would also know. Therefore, the news of Chuji Tea House being able to catch monsters and exorcise ghosts spread in a certain area. If there was one, there would be two. If there was two, there would be three. As soon as Chu Xiang opened, there were people who came to ask for help. There were monsters, ghosts and evil spirits. With Chu Xiang and Li Yufeng working together, there was nothing they could do. Their fame spread even more, and their business flourished. They had a firm foothold in the capital. Bai Yi and Bai Yu's medical skills were superb. After Madame Chen recovered, she introduced them to her good friends. These people introduced them to other people they were familiar with. They gradually had their own connections, and opened up the circle of officials and nobles, earning a lot. Bai Yi now had time and did not go home often. She liked to go to the tea house to find Chu Xiang. She felt that it was more interesting to catch monsters and exorcise ghosts with Chu Xiang. One day, she was laughing with Chu Xiang on the third floor when she saw Zhuang Yulong enter the tea house with several students. Bai Yi smiled. "Sister, does big brother Zhuang come often? Those people seem to have a good relationship with him." Chu Xiang nodded. "He comes often and likes to treat people. Those people are naturally willing to go with him." Bai Yi felt that something was wrong. "En? Aren't they together for poems?" Chu Xiang looked at the book in her hand and raised her eyebrows. "Poems? Yes, it is true when other people gather. Your big brother Zhuang seems to be much weaker in this aspect. If he didn't have a lot of money, they might not be willing to play with him." This made Bai Yi very surprised. She had heard praises of Zhuang Yulong in the town before. What genius! He was able to pass the imperial examinations at such a young age. This was a height that many people could not reach in their lifetime. She had always thought that Zhuang Yulong was very powerful. Why did he need to treat people to get together with other students? She did not show up and quietly hid to see the situation with Zhuang Yulong. Chu Xiang saw this and curiously asked, "What are you doing?" Bai Yi pursed her lips and said in a low voice, "I want to know what he's like outside. I feel like the him I know isn't the real him. I want to know everything about him." "I'm sure. Actually, I think you should turn into a fox when you have time and get close to him to see what he's like in private." Chu Xiang's lips curled into a smile. She did not feel that she was teaching her younger sister bad things. Bai Yi was puzzled. "In private? When I was a fox, he often treated me, Bai Yi, very well. Mother worked hard, and I wanted to take the exam and become an official to repay mother." "Oh, right, and he didn't pocket the money he picked up. He was very kind and sincere, and he liked me very much. That's all." Chu Xiang looked up at her. "Silly sister, a person's heart is fickle. Why don't you use this ability? Anyway, if he likes you in private, you can enjoy it happily. It's not a bad thing." Bai Yi hesitated for a moment, and was surprised to find that she was hesitating. Since when did she not trust Zhuang Yulong so much? She didn't even notice it. This was not a good sign. She took a deep breath and nodded. "Sister, you're right. Instead of making wild guesses, it's better to know more about him." Zhuang Yulong's performance in this poetry competition was just like Chu Xiang's. There was nothing outstanding about it. And because a young master joined this time, the young master didn't spoil Zhuang Yulong, and didn't care if he invited him or not. He ridiculed Zhuang Yulong's poem in front of everyone, making Zhuang Yulong embarrassed. Bai Yi saw Zhuang Yulong's face turn red and leave in shame. She stood up angrily. "Who is this person? How can he be so rude?" Chu Xiang nodded in agreement. "It's very rude. Even if the poem is really not good, you can just point it out. Why ridicule him? What are you going to do?" Bai Yi was just about to teach that person a lesson, but after hearing Chu Xiang's words, she thought about it and calmed down. "It's just a small matter to make him be rude. If I hit him too hard, he will be like Miss Jiang. I can't be like this." Bai Yi shook her head and thought seriously for a while. Finally, when the young master got up to leave, she moved her finger and made him slip and fall on the threshold. The servant of the young master quickly helped him up and quickly left. Bai Yi laughed and said, "Sister, did you see his face just now? It's red. He also knows how to lose face." Chu Xiang laughed and said, "Okay, an eye for an eye. Go and see your brother Zhuang. And I'll buy a roast goose." He likes to eat it the most. Sister, I'm leaving. You go out and do things carefully. If you meet a powerful person, you must call me. I'll help you. Okay, go quickly. Chu Xiang watched Bai Yi run out happily and shook her head with a smile. She said to Li Yufeng, she's still a girl. She should be coaxed and played with. Every time she works so hard to repay a favor, it's really a big loss. Li Yufeng put down the book and walked to her side. He joked, with such a powerful sister like you, it's not certain who will suffer a big loss. If Bai Yi didn't have you, what would she do? She might have been skinned alive. Impossible, you think too highly of her. Chu Xiang held her chin and laughed. Have you heard the story of two snake demons? One green and one white. They also went down the mountain to repay a favor. Humans and demons have different paths. Of course, they will cause a lot of trouble when they just enter the world. The biggest advantage of having a high cultivation is that even if you cause trouble, you have the ability to calm it down. Then, you can learn from your mistakes and slowly grow up. Only then can you truly understand that Bai Yi has me in the world. It's just that the process of climbing up and rolling up is omitted. You won't be so ruthless and punish so heavily. Li Yufeng sat across from her thoughtfully and looked at her. I really haven't heard such a story. Why don't you tell me? What kind of trouble did they cause? Bai Suzhen and Qing had caused a lot of trouble. The demon realm was originally a place where the strong were respected. They were very powerful. When they entered the world of ordinary people, it was easy for them to do bad things with good intentions. If they were angry and fought with people, the destructive power would be even more amazing. They could even do something like flooding the Jinshan temple. Demons did as they pleased. They always had to suffer losses and be injured before they could learn the rules of the human world little by little. In Chu Xiang's view, Bai Yi grew faster than the green snake and the white snake. She was different from those who were silly and sweet in love. She just needed a little more time. After all, it was the first awakening of love, and he was also the benefactor who saved her life. To believe that this man was not so good and to give up, it would take time to accept. Chu Xiang told the story of the green snake and the white snake to Li Yufeng. After listening, Li Yufeng was silent for a while before saying, if you are not strong enough, you will be attacked by others. If you want to be free, you not only need strength, but also power. Chu Xiang raised her eyebrows in surprise. Why does it sound like you want to do something big? Li Yufeng smiled and held her hand that was on the table. Then I can't be idle. At the very least, I have to give you no reason to despise me. Seeing you dislike Zhuang Yulong, I feel a sense of urgency. I can't be a man that you don't like. Then go and do it. I'm waiting to see you do something big. Chu Xiang was really looking forward to it. She felt that he was a little mysterious. She didn't know what he wanted to do. From then on, Li Yufeng often went out. When he came back, he was not idle. He studied very hard. But every time Chu Xiang went to subdue demons and ghosts, he would still follow. Chu Xiang was a demon. When she went out to do this kind of thing, he was afraid that she would meet powerful and scattered Taoists. He couldn't be at ease if he didn't follow. The two of them were busy. Bai Yi didn't want to trouble them, so she went to find Bai Yu. Anyway, Bai Yu was always with her. It was convenient. When she was treating Mrs. Chun, she asked a lot of things about the evil ghost husband. They were both poor students. The man and Zhuang Yulong had many similarities. When Bai Yi heard about the man, she felt as if she saw Zhuang Yulong's future. Although Zhuang Yulong didn't show a bad character, she was still affected. She couldn't help but be like Chu Xiang. She turned into a fox and stayed by Zhuang Yulong's side. Of course, Zhuang Yulong wouldn't guard against a fox. So after Bai Yi stayed for a few days, she finally saw a side she had never seen before. Zhuang Yulong broke the teacup and cursed those who mocked him in the room. He cursed very fiercely. She was shocked. What was going on? Wasn't Zhuang Yulong very peaceful and happy when he was alone before? Why was he like this in the room now? She didn't want to think of her benefactor in a bad way. She released her spiritual power and slowly calmed Zhuang Yulong's violent mood. Zhuang Yulong gradually calmed down and sat back at the table. He picked up the book and found that his mind was much clearer. He could read, so he started to read. Seeing this, Bai Yi was convinced. He just suddenly came to the capital and was under too much pressure. Didn't he study hard? She could still help in this regard. As long as she cleared his heart, he could concentrate on reading. She used her spiritual power to clear his mind, and he could remember things faster. So Bai Yi didn't go to the shop often. She gave the shop to Bai Yu, and she stayed at home. When Zhuang Yulong was reading, she helped him grind the ink, pour tea, and fan him. In fact, she had been using her spiritual power to help him, so that he could read more easily, and the room was much more comfortable. Although Zhuang Yulong didn't know what she did, he was very comfortable with her. Of course, he was happy. When he was in a good mood, he relaxed when he played with the fox in private, and became as gentle as before. Zhuang Lushi was not happy. Her son was studying well. Why did Bai Yi always go in? Wasn't this disturbing her son's business? The more she looked at Bai Yi, the more unpleasant she felt. She felt that Bai Yi just wanted to hook up with her son and make trouble. Every time she beat Bai Yi and let her go to the shop to work. Bai Yi didn't take her seriously, but her nagging every day made Zhuang Yulong very annoyed. He simply asked Bai Yi not to study with him. In order to let him read with a clear mind, Bai Yi had to turn into a fox and go into the room to help him. It was very good. She could get along with him from time to time. Seeing that his homework was better, she was happy for him. However, this method was only a temporary solution. Zhuang Yulong just calmed his mind and concentrated more. But good poetry could not be made by calming his mind and concentrating. After he was once again ridiculed at a poetry gathering, he returned home and slammed the door shut. He hid in his room and drank alone, giving up on himself. Bai Yi was very anxious. After knocking on the door for a long time and not getting a response, she ran out and turned into a fox. When Zhuang Lushi saw her go out, she thought she didn't care about Zhuang Yulong and couldn't help but curse. Bai Yi didn't have time to pay attention to her. When she entered the room, she jumped into Zhuang Yulong's arms and tried to comfort him. Zhuang Yulong hugged the white fox and laughed at himself while drinking. Only you don't dislike me. You have always treated me as your master. Wherever I go, you follow me. Swear I'm useless. I'm too useless. What top scorer? I can't even pass the Jinshu exam. I'm not a scholar at all. It's my luck to pass the exam. What about this exam? If I can't pass the exam, my mother will be disappointed, Bai Yi will be disappointed, others will laugh at me, and I will look down on myself. Oh, that godly doctor can make me the prime minister. How can I? How can I? He, Bai Yi, can help me be the prime minister. How can you and I be the prime minister? Bai Yi anxiously comforted him, but it was no use. She had never seen him so depressed. It was as if he had lost all hope. Was the imperial exam really so important? But she didn't understand essays or poetry. She couldn't help him. Bai Yu had the ability to help him become the prime minister. How could she help? She sent a sound transmission to Bai Yu next door. Bai Yu, tell me quickly. What can I do to help Brother Zhuang? Bai Yu replied. I can't disclose it. I've already done too much. I can't do more. Bai Yi also knew that she couldn't disclose too much about this kind of thing. Bai Yu was not here, so she couldn't ask. She anxiously thought of various ways, but rejected them one by one. She could not steal the questions, nor could she steal the poems. She could not make Zhuang Yulong smarter and more knowledgeable. The final exam was coming soon. How could she help him? Could it be that she saved some important person and made Zhuang Yulong an official? But the medicine shop had been open for so long. The highest official she had contacted was only a second-rank official. It was impossible to make Zhuang Yulong an official directly. Many thoughts turned in Bai Yi's head. Zhuang Yulong drank a bottle of wine, pinched Bai Yi's neck, and put her on the table. Bai Yi suddenly remembered that she was wearing something on her neck. It was the snow lotus pill that Chu Xiang had refined for her. The snow lotus pill was very rare. Cultivators who were seriously injured could quickly recover after taking it. The effect was even greater for ordinary people. It was not an exaggeration to say that they would be reborn. A snow lotus pill could make Zhuang Yulong smart. Bai Yi happily jumped on the table. She wanted to dissolve the snow lotus pill into the tea for Zhuang Yulong to drink. Just as she was about to put it in, she paused, turned around and ran out. Bai Yi turned back into a human in a place without any mercy. She held the snow lotus pill in her hand. She didn't know what was wrong with her. Just as she was about to put the pill in, she suddenly didn't want to do this kind of nameless thing. She wanted Zhuang Yulong to know what she had done for him. This was a snow lotus pill. It was something very important to her. She was willing to give it to Zhuang Yulong, but she wanted him to know that it was she who gave it to him. Bai Yu went out to the medicine shop. When she saw her holding the snow lotus pill in the alley, she immediately went to the tea house to find Chu Xiang. Sister Xiang, the snow lotus pill is so precious. If Bai Yi gives it to Zhuang Yulong, then if she gets injured in the future, she won't have such a good pill. Moreover, the snow lotus pill can also remove the heart demon when Bai Yi advances. She shouldn't give it to Zhuang Yulong. Bai Yu thought that Chu Xiang would stop Bai Yi, but Chu Xiang didn't raise her head. She looked at the book and said, "That snow lotus pill is hers. She can give it to whoever she wants." When a child grows up, of course, she has to understand the price she has to pay. If she wants to pay, she can pay. In the future, she has to bear the price herself. There's nothing wrong with that, right? Bai Yu opened her mouth and found that she couldn't refute. Yes, that snow lotus pill was very precious, but Zhuang Yulong had saved Bai Yi's life. Even if Bai Yi didn't do it for love, it was not wrong to give him the snow lotus pill to repay his kindness. Although he didn't like Zhuang Yulong's kindness to Bai Yi couldn't be changed. For the first time, he felt regret. That day he went to pick herbs nearby. Why didn't he go forward and meet Chu Xiang and Bai Yi? If he went forward, what would Zhuang Yulong have to do with him? How could he let this kindness bind Bai Yi to the point where she couldn't move? Bai Yu sighed and left the tea house. Chu Xiang looked up at his back. She tilted her head and said to Li Yufeng, "Does he care too much about Bai Yi?" Li Yufeng smiled and said, "Isn't that normal? The two of them are together. It would be strange if he didn't care. Bai Yi may be the person Bai Yu has been with for the longest time in hundreds of years." Chu Xiang shrugged. "It's good. Bai Yu is a good person. With him caring for Bai Yi, I can rest assured." "Why do I feel like you're looking at your brother-in-law? Bai Yu passed it so easily?" "That's not it. I don't care about this. They can do whatever they want. I'm not looking for a man." Li Yufeng couldn't help laughing. "Does anyone believe you? If you don't care, maybe Bai Yi will marry into the Zhuang family now." Chu Xiang threw away the book and said with a smile, "It's not good to lack a good man. I don't care about a good man. Let's see if Bai Yi likes him or not. Well, I'm going out. I won't come back for dinner tonight." Li Yufeng looked puzzled. He got up and looked at her. "Where are you going? No one came to ask for help today. Buddha says no." Chu Xiang stretched out her index finger and shook it in front of him. She chuckled and went downstairs. Li Yufeng was very curious about what she was going to do. Recently, she often went out alone. But Chu Xiang didn't go, so he didn't ask and didn't follow. He looked at the book in his hand, thought for a while, and left the tea house after telling the shopkeeper. The two of them did their own things. When they returned home, it was already very late. Usually Zhuang Lushi and the others were all asleep. But today they were so excited that they made a table of good wine and good dishes, waiting for them to celebrate. Zhuang Lushi didn't know why, but Zhuang Yulong's face was full of joy. Chu Xiang sent a sound transmission to Bai Yi. "Give him the snow lotus pill, and your kindness will be repaid." "Sister." Bai Yi looked embarrassed. She felt a little guilty for giving Zhuang Yulong the snow lotus pill that Chu Xiang gave her. Chu Xiang sat down and ate with them. She didn't care and said, "It's just a small matter. Why do you look like this? But you have to remember that you don't owe him anything. It's like being reborn. Your repayment to him doesn't belong to his kindness of saving you. You have to know that he was just kind at that time. He didn't save you specifically." Bai Yi listened carefully and agreed with Chu Xiang's words. "I know, sister. He and I don't owe each other anything. In the future he will no longer be my benefactor." "That's right. You'll be happy when you do what you want to do. As long as you're happy. Even if you give him your cultivation, it doesn't matter. But don't be unhappy after doing something. What's the point?" Li Yufeng also said, Listen to your sister. Make yourself happy at all times. Otherwise, why do we cultivate so hard? And I'll remember. Bai solemnly agreed. This was not the first time she heard them say this, but it was the first time she agreed with them from the bottom of her heart. She cultivated so hard to be free and happy. If she did something that made her unhappy, why would she do it? Bai looked at Zhuang Yulong. Seeing Zhuang Yulong so happy, she inexplicably felt relieved. Didn't she follow her benefactor to repay his kindness? It turned out that repaying his kindness was so simple. She just needed to satisfy his wish. This seemed very simple to her. It wasn't as difficult as she thought. The fate of gratitude was also not as tangled as the fate of those seniors. Bai held the pot and poured wine for Chu Xiang. When she drank with Chu Xiang, a sincere smile appeared on her face. She was very grateful to Zhuang Yulong for saving her life, but she was really grateful to Chu Xiang for always being by her side. She reminded her, took care of her, and taught her. To have such a good sister in this life, she was really lucky. You're tuning in to the Earbook Haven YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.